God, Joe, you look so intense. I always break
Hi.
first. I
I
always
know.
break first.
I
Yeah.
zoomed right in too.
So, guys, today I am the sick one. Beastie is gone. The doctor is here though, and we had a little bit of a mishap in our coaching situation here. Now, what I want to point out again today, guys, the tournament is wild. But Tim, can you tell us a little bit about this tournament? Do you know anything about what's going on here today?
Yeah, I kind of do. I knew that there were some duelers flowing around last week
Mm,
of the Steel Series variety. A lot of these players got to get picked by their respective coaches. I know Beastie and Puppypaw we're gonna be
yeah.
seeing the first time to start it. Corvinus, Dragovon gonna be the first one to start it. And you know what was crazy is looking at the draft. I don't know if you guys saw it last week in the draft, but it was really interesting, and I thought it was fun having everybody like on the same screen and talking over each other with auctions. I think probably for next time, I would suggest a paddle. Just put the
Oh,
paddle up when you want to like an auction. That would be
definitely.
so great.
We
But
also we also need a Tim voice there. That's like, hey, and he's going for, and then you just blah, 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 blah. You can speak really fast. I think you would do really well.
any, anytime, no, if I was a coach, anytime like I wanted to raise the auction, I'd be like, up 100. Let's go. Another one. Bump it up. Oh, it'd be so much fun. But it was fun to watch anyway. And now we're going to see those duelers if they've been spent or allocated in the right fashion, right? So we're going to see how much money that Corvinus got paid for, how much money Dragovon got paid for. Is it going to be worth it? Is it going to be wins on the score sheet? That's the most important part, right?
As my gut goes, I'm going for 4-1 Corvinus.
Or one. Oh my God. You know what? I
Mm.
love you're not even giving political answers here. You're like, hey, this is what the series is going to be. And you're going to watch me be right. And maybe you will
Mhm.
be for a 4-1. This first game that we have on Coastal Cliffs, I love this map. I love this map so much. I wish it was in the ranked ladder because honestly, I feel like the ranked map ladder pool could use a little bit of adjusting. But the coastal cliffs here. Byzantines, though, kind of an awkward pick. Zushi, maybe I can kind of expect it. Zushi getting a fast castle, you can get those knights out pretty quickly. I don't know if you've seen some of the Zushi castle age timings,
Mhm.
Whamen, but
I
me,
felt
who
them.
is not, I am not a Zushi player by any stretch of the imagination. However, I remember getting a castle age at 6 minutes 35 seconds. Like it's bonkers, you know. And if you're Dragovan and you're trying to do a little bit of gulping, good luck. You're
Oh,
not gonna be
there's
able
no
to do
time to
that.
gulp. He's just gonna be in your base. By the time you're gulping, there's a monk just swinging around with a relic in his hand. I don't know if Dragaman is gonna have any answer to what Corvinus does, but what I can imagine is you opening with a mill on the berries, which should give you enough time to get those resources for the Kashyyyks and send them out pretty early on. But I just feel like if you don't do enough damage in that early push, you're gonna be so far behind. And then the bold monks are gonna rain havoc down upon you.
Oh yeah, and the way they slice and dice and thunk. Hopefully, we hear a couple thunks on whatever units are there. I'm hearing sheep in my microphone. Whammon, we are stalling no longer. Game number one of the Forged in Steel, day number two. Beastie and Puppypaw as your coaches. Dragovon playing in the purple as the Byzantines. Corvinus in the color green as Zushi's Legacy. Now, Whammon, I want to take just a second or two just to give you an idea of this map. You know Coastal Cliffs, I know Coastal Cliffs, but if there's
Hmm.
people that are new to Age of Empires 4 who haven't seen the map, let's think about it just a little bit. Cal is look at these cliffs, right? And they are on the coast. This map is very accurately named. It's very nice. This water, there's a lot of deep sea fish. As Cal's looking over there, can't touch him. Okay? Only the seagulls can touch him. You cannot. What also is important, maybe just in terms of a game aspect, the reason why this map is the way it is, shout out to Avely for making it also, is you have 75% of the map that you can actually use, right? So it means things are a little bit more condensed, there's a little bit more chaos, but also looking at the opponent, looking at the spawns from both Corvinus and Dragovon, you'll come to understand, Whammon, there's no starting stone. And I think that's probably one of the reasons why this is one of my favorite maps. Because if you're going to go for something like a second town center, if you're going to go for something like if Byzantines want to add a couple on stone for some cisterns or something like that, you got to go out in harm's way for it. And to me, stone is that one resource that could really slow a game down.
Now, the problem with stone, I think, for most civilizations, I know many people decide, oh, I'm going to go to TC, but when you're playing these two, that's not really a concern. And I don't think, like you said, with stone, it does slow down the game a bit. But in this case, we're not going to get to that point where we can go slow. We see Dragoman not going for the berries, though. He's going to go straight for the food. And I guess that's just going to be a normal berry age up for him. So this is going to mean that Corvinus, depending on what he decides, the game pace will be decided. But I want to look at the spawns there for a second. And as we can see, both the golds are in an okay spawn. But Corvinus definitely got the advantage here because his gold is a lot less open. So the berries, Grand Winery being put down now, only with 3. And we can see he's still putting all his villagers on food, rallying them as they go. So does this mean he's just going to go for that fast castle? I think that's the only choice he has.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to do what he can to try to get there, right? Corvinus going with the meditation gardens, putting 2 on it. Get a nice little chunk of berries, stone, wood, gold. From my understanding, besides the Byzantines and that one berry patch left out in the open, hopefully you'll be able to pick those pomegranates a little bit later into the game. But you have all 4 resources there, so it's going to help you get up. One of the reasons why we talked about Zushi's fast castle over and over again, as Dragavon might be trying to follow suit with that castle, is Corvinus, to get that meditation gardens, it's a little bit cheaper. It's 340 food, 170 gold. To get the Castle Age landmark, it's 1,010 food, 520 gold, if my memory serves me correctly. So you have, not only is it you're getting the supervised food every time you drop off 10, you're getting 12, but also you're going to be able to click up a little bit quicker, right? So getting that, everything just kind of synchronizes so well to get that best fast castle timing.
So my concern now is, does Dragovan know the power of the Zushi in this case? Because the meditation garden is in a very prime spot here, and that's, I think, what's going to be a very key difference. Byzantines also gets their free stone as they're building different things. But as we can see here with this meditation garden, he's going to get so much extra stone. And you see those 2 cheeky villagers, they're just quickly getting a little bit of extra stone before they go back onto the gold choppin'. But both of these players, we do see now with the income, we can already see Corvinus is living his best life. He's going to reach it so quickly, and only 2 on gold there for Dragoman and Cow showing. And does this just mean that we're going to be getting a little bit of that early aggression? Yes, it seems so, because the double broadaxe has been clicked, and it looks like Dragovan is going to try to play this game in feudal.
Yeah, I mean, you might want to try to play this game in feudal Whamen, but he's got about 2 minutes of feudal left for Corvinus to actually do something. This meditation gardens, remember correctly, just with that scout torching it down. The scout is disturbing. Oh my god, that barracks.
Ooh, that's disgusting. Tim, brother, ugh.
Oh
Okay.
my, I gotta go.
Oh, I'm sorry, Tim. I didn't mean to expose you to this, but it does not get scouted initially, at least, and it feels like this is just part of Dragonman's going crazy. Does he see it? No, he decides to back off. He might not know that this is ever coming. The cistern taking a little bit of damage. No. He goes for the full scouting. He will be spotting that barracks, but the question is, does he actually spot it in his heart? Or is it just in this field of vision, barely noticeable? Oh, that poor thing.
That's a very good question. I want to say heads up play by Corvinus also, because you saw those villagers getting stoned before. The reason why he gathered that little bit of stone, obviously the meditation garden is going to give you a little bit, but when you drop it off at the mining camp, it means he's going to have enough for hand cannon slits if he chooses to get it at 50 stone. He might have the ability to. One thing about Zushi that's super good, as you can see, that town center already comes with hand cannon slits equipped. So if you're trying to get some heavy stuff in there, like a lot of people, they talk about Royal Knights. For Dragavon, if you went Keshiks or something like that, you might have the ability to, but look at that. Scout goes down, don't need to garrison anything at this point. Limited are starting to work their way around the battlefield, but by the time the Limited gets there, look at what Corvinus has in terms of his resources. He's going to hit the button.
Yeah, the problem is this is coming in way too soon, and I don't think Dragavan is going to have the numbers to actually deal with this. Those monks are extremely spicy. Cal was showing us the Shaolin Monastery being not used. We're getting the Mount Lu Academy instead. So we won't be seeing any of those sneaky monks running around. It's all about connecting that gold. Cow showing us again the Mount Lu Academy. I'm not sure. What is he? Is he pointing
The
out the
resources.
resources? Oh,
Yeah, I
yeah?
think he's pointing out the resources. Oh,
Okay.
cow,
Okay.
cow. Sometimes it's like Morse code with you. It's unbelievable. The no, I'm kidding. He's doing a fantastic job. The Mount Lu Academy is something that's pretty interesting. You don't see it a lot. A lot of people go for the Shaolin Monastery just because of the. I call it Shaolin because it upsets chat. The Mount Lu Academy. Imperial officials collect taxes twice as often. 20% of it goes to food. You get some of these unique technologies here, supervision by Imperial officials, improved. So you're able to get more resources. This really helps if you have to stay in your base for food. And I think that's going to be one of the things that Corvinus has to do. You're going to be able to collect those taxes, get a little bit of food. It means you can get a little bit more knights or whatever you choose to do. Maybe Corvinus might want to go in the Palace Guard route just because of the fact that a lot of Limited are existing. But he's going to have to do something if they wants to keep that meditation gardens alive.
Now, I'm actually really scared for the Ragavan based on that supervision bonus that I've just read. I feel like I've played Zushi, but I've never played it properly. So the supervision being increased to 300% just means that he's going to be able to pump out so many more units. And you can see though, those palace guards are going to start pouring out. I would love to see a little bit of a blacksmith drop there eventually as well, just to make sure that he closes out the game. Dragovan not even close to thinking about castle. He is just going to go all the way in on feudal. And I guess when you do have a lot of longbows, this is going to be it is going to be okay for a while, but once the palace guard numbers ramp up, it's going to be so hard to keep these down.
Oh, absolutely. And you're going to see the longbowmen essentially shooting marshmallows at those palace guard. And the palace guard, they're quicker than a normal men-at-arms, right? So really, really quickly, Cal, really quickly, I do want to take a look at, just because the barracks was supervised, how quickly is he getting these palace guards out? 6-second palace guards of the Castle Age variety. This has no signs of slowing down. You can see that Corvinus's food per minute, he's got a little bit over 600. So he's going to be able to continuously pump these out. He's already got 8 on the battlefield. Dragovan's got 23 military units, but not a single one of them deals with palace guard effectively.
Yeah, no, this is definitely going to be a lot harder because those spearmen are just going to try to be a little bit of a meat shield, and these longbows are doing good for now. But we see Corvin is getting +1 on that attack as well, so these things are going to get be hitting even harder. Now the question is Dragovan going to be able to transition out of this? But now with the gold per minute, it does look like he realizes, hey, I might need some other units here. So floating a little bit of wood, this could be turning into quite a few archer ranges as well. Get a few, what are those things called? Crossbowmen once we get to the castle age, but we'll see if Corvinus lets him live that long. The blacksmith getting that +1 range defense as well now. He's getting, oh, he just canceled an upgrade. I was about to say something was just clicked. But now we're going to be seeing this is starting to get a little bit of a big army against the amounts that we see here from Dragoman. And Dragoman is quite far from his base. This is not a fight you want to take that far from your base, especially with these slow units.
Yeah, and Corvinus can kind of set the tone because of the mobility, right? I think it's really good that you kind of harped on the actual speed of those longbowmen. Longbowmen are one of the slowest units in the game, probably besides a villager, right? So they're going to be trying to get somewhere. And I know that Dragovon has steeled arrows, so those longbowmen doing 7 damage, or at least trying to. But I know that Corvinus, he's already getting Iron Undermesh. He already has that. He's getting the 2nd ranged armor upgrade as well. So those longbowmen, I don't think there's going to be enough. Those spearmen, I'm not sure if they're going to be enough either as they kind of make the front line. Longbowmen trying to kite over there on the western side. Maybe Corvinus needs a little bit of regrouping. It could be just a quantity over quality situation right now.
Yeah, these guys, they're getting through all the way to the longbowmen, but some of them are occupied with these spears, and it does look like Dragoman is able to hold, but he hasn't clicked up yet. And we can see now he's trying to get there. He had a little bit of idle time there in the TC, and those numbers are dwindling right now. I think Corvin is a little bit, yeah, maybe overestimating what those palace guards could be doing against those sheer numbers. And this honestly gives me a little bit of hope for, as a Byzantines player, against a really scary army like that. The wall's coming up now, forcing these guys to just be idle for longer. Corvin is now with 10 palace guards, going to be going across the map, but this is no longer going to have that power he wanted before. Instead of making a few archery ranges, he's opted for getting a few farms instead, which is probably a good choice because you need that oil to keep producing the longbows.
Yeah, and I think Byzantines is in a very unique situation where you're able to pump out some units. The oil gives you some free units, so you're going to have the ability to make some farms to do a farm transition. But that wood line is getting decimated. A couple villagers going down. Another one on the berries on the western side as well. Lots of idle time, like you said before, Whamen. But this town center is probably the only thing that could do a significant amount of damage to these palace guards based on what's up here. Golden Gate at about 50% has no way of getting rebuilt because palace guards are streaming in this Byzantine Empire. Every single piece of population in the Byzantine Empire is now running for their lives.
The problem is here, he doesn't even have space to garrison those boys. He's just putting the villagers around, trying to desperately get that thing up. The Limitanei are trying to get there, but they were a little bit outmatched there. And it looks like these villagers, he's going to pay so much just to get this castle age up. And I don't think it's
Oh
going to
my
be
god.
looking too good. But look at Corvinus. His food per minute is at 900. And Dragovan, he barely has enough to feed the few villagers that he has left. 12 villages are now dead. Rest in
And you can,
pieces.
and you can see the economy count, right? 41 to 30, half of Dragovan's economy is idle. I think one of the biggest problems for him, he did go up to Castle Age, that's great. Golden Horn Tower going to help you out, get some free units. There's no archery range, I don't think. I don't see one. Cal is pointing it out to me. There's none at all. So yeah, he's thinking, I get a Castle Age, I get crossbowmen, I help get this game over, make some crossbowmen to take down these palace guards. You don't have the building to make them. So now what are you going to do?
And it doesn't look like he's going to get +2 anytime soon. He's starved for resources right now. And with all those villages going down, you have to ask yourself, is there any way he can actually get back? And I think the answer would be if Corvinus sits back and lets Dragovan get a second TC, get back in the game. But I don't think Corvinus is going to let this up too quickly because Puppypaw is in his ear telling him, hey, dude, you got to kill him now. But Dragovan, knowing that this pump has to come from somewhere, he sees those dead deer in the fog of war, and he's going to try and look for them. Try to get a few villager kills himself so he can even out this just a little bit because it's looking so dire.
Yeah, for Corvinus, maybe a little bit of a cheeky play here because he didn't put any outposts or anything up there now. He's just about starting to because he realizes that now he's not. Dragon isn't confined to his base, but it might be a little too late. Longbowmen are of the veteran variety right now. Trying to get a relic by Corvinus, not going to happen. But these villagers are going to have to make some outposts, going to have to make some defensive structures if he wants to keep going with this food. And now we're going to see a pretty awkward time for Zushi's legacy because he's getting deer, he's going to be getting boar. If this area gets compromised, Whamen, he's not going to be able to get food. And then he's got to do something like a granary transition, which really kills your tempo.
Especially when you're stuck in the Tang Dynasty right now. Corvin is not looking like he's going to Song anytime soon, which will mean that he gets those cheaper farms. And as long as he's denied from food, that army is not going to keep producing. We now see he's getting some Orangian guards of his own as well. So these are going to be quite nice to have, but they don't deal so well with palace guards just yet. And we do see they're inside his base. Oh well, he's ready for this fight. The villagers are not, and this might be... Honestly, this could just be the end of Dragovan. But also, if Corvinus loses all of this, he's done. Because Dragovan is crazy. He's going to keep pushing with the few units that he has. That's exactly what he's doing. He's like, hey, you're in my base, but I've got a few units. Let me take care of these. He's losing quite a bit because, as you said, those towers reinforced, the TC reinforced. So even though this is going to cause a little bit of idle time, I still think Corvinus can get out ahead here. He just needs to clean this up.
Yeah, and Limit today, usually, if it was a town center other than Zushi or China, they would be rather okay with this. Just because they could equip their shield wall, right? If they could take a significant amount of TC fire. You don't have to be too scared when you have Limitanei out there. And I see, just because of how slow those Limitanei are moving, shield wall is equipped, but the hand canisters, for how much damage, they will rip through that shield wall. I don't care what kind of shield you have. When you have a gun, it proves to be a little difficult to try to get through. So Corvinus is going to be trying to back up just a little bit, get some of these berries. But now we're getting this time of Zushi that I kind of alluded to, Whamen. The food starting to dwindle a little bit. You know,
And
he
the thing,
was at over 1,000 a minute for a while, but now it's starting to go down. He's got to use berries, these things that he doesn't necessarily want to get from.
especially considering that little wall's going to open up, and I really hope Corvinus notices that because Dragovan could capitalize on this. Now, my biggest worry here is Corvinus has been ahead economically non-stop, but he hasn't been able to do significant damage to Dragoman. And I don't know if this is just Byzantines. If Byzantines is in the spot where because they can make all these free units, essentially, what does that mean for other players? Does that mean that it's just so much better than most other civilizations? Now, these longbows are a little bit out, and they might be caught out, taking a little bit of damage, but the Varangian guards are here to suck up a little bit of that. The longbows probably need to be focusing down on those crossbows, because they're just going to clean up these Varangian guards. But the Varangian guards on the back line, and they're taking care of them anyway.
Yeah, they're just going for it for those crossbowmen. They see their counter, and they're like, well, how about I get in front of you with a big old sword, and maybe you could do something about it. Not using the Berserk ability, but for Dragovon, look how many longbowmen he has. He was getting berries for a while. He had some farm transition. Most of his army that he has out here is quote-unquote free, right? Because those longbowmen are just costing oil, and the Golden Horn is going to be helping you out as well. You can see what Cal is showing for army value. So Dragovon still being okay in the military masses. He actually has double the number of Corvinus. Now we're going to see because Dragovon can continue to sustain this, right? He's got farms that are going to be safe. The Golden Horn Tower is going to continuously pump out those free units. So Dragovon can sustain. My question is, can Corvinus?
Can Corvinus? And I don't think the answer is going to be yes at all, because like you can see, he's still in Tang Dynasty. They usually cannot go for farms at this point either. And I feel like once Dragoman gets a good position here, that wood is going to be denied, and that's never going to be on the cards for Corvinus. The problem is, Corvinus was ahead so much economically, and he's still ahead by 10 villagers, but it just doesn't matter the later the game goes, because it's not as far apart as it was literally 8 minutes ago when it was at its peak. So I don't know. If Corvinus couldn't capitalize on it then, I'm very worried for him after. But he is going into a few Jugunu, and if things go bad, you always just go Jugunu. Those things, they hit like a truck. And maybe they're the answer that he's looking for. We do see Dragoman getting the +1 ranged armor now, so maybe the Jugunu won't be clapping them in half as Corvinus is hoping they win.
Yeah, I mean, especially because those Varangian Guard are supposed to be your front line, right? Corvinus, instead of going more into crossbowmen, he made that Zuganu switch. So you get that Iron Undermesh, and then you get the second upgrade as well. Those Varangian Guard are going to have 6. But he's added Lancers as well. As you can see, Longbowmen doing the best they can to try to take those down. Varangian Guard doing their best to make the front line. The Longbowmen actually start targeting the Zugnu. And a nice little flank here on the western side as some of those Longbowmen continue to go down. With this, I'm pretty sure Dragovon might end up holding this. These Longbowmen are going to be able to try to take down these Zuganu to the best of the ability. These Lancers are going to try to go back and try to hit these Longbowmen. Overall, I think Corvinus wanted this to be this like game-ending, I made this army composition switch. It's supposed to pay off. Overall, kind of an even trade.
Very, very well traded by Dragovan. And yes, even though it's even, keeping in mind that Dragovan gets these free units, he's going to be okay with this trade as well. The Zugunu is very difficult to lose when you're wanting to mass them, but we see now the Lancers becoming a priority, and Dragovan is switching to some limited A amongst those Varangian guards as well. So with the 7 crossbows in his arsenal, he should be able to deal with these, and the longbow fire, absolutely brilliant. We can see Dragovan's playstyle of just being absolutely chaotic paying off. He's got fast micro, and he knows what to target. He knows how to move his units, and that's definitely showing here with this Byzantines gameplay.
Oh, absolutely, Whamen. Dragovon has a little bit of chaos, and he's like, I thrive in this. I was born in it. I was molded by it. And you can see how well he's doing. He's still keeping that military count high, 24 to 12. Look at his food per minute, about 1,300. We had a lot of problems with that one. Corvinus has those berries in the back from the meditation gardens that we kind of panned over to a little bit before. After that, there's no safe food source. So whatever battle that he decides to take, that boar finally getting eaten up, gobbled up on that western side, he's going to have to figure out what to do. Dragovon already has this nice little transition. You can see he's getting about 300 some oil per minute. So he's just essentially getting 5 to 10 longbowmen with the golden horn per minute for free. It's crazy. Byzantines is crazy. I love them though.
Yeah, they're the best. We love them. Thank you, Byzantines, for existing. I do want to, however, point out that neither Dragovan nor Beasty noticed that that board disappeared from the map. I think if he noticed that, hey, this boar's dead, we could have gotten a lot of village kills. You see those villagers running for their lives. Little tower there, giving away a bit of information, but look at those boys just trying to make a gate. They're like, hey, oh, what are you guys doing over here? He does pick up a few of these, making that village account a little bit closer than before. A lot of pickups right there.
You know, I was thinking with that berry patch, Wayman, is I don't think he could get through that, right? Because the berry patch is there. I wasn't sure if that ended up being a hole or not, but he tried to get rid of that gate. A lot of Zugnu trying to kill those Varangian Guard, death by 1,000 paper cuts, maybe not quite being as effective as he wanted to. Limited gonna have some shield wall. There's a couple Lance Connect in there as well. You can see them throwing around that giant sword that they got, taking some down. Lancer Raid from Corvinus on that wood line is gonna help that villager count, but this is an overwhelming, based on what we're seeing here, longbowmen spread up in groups, Varangian Guard making a good front line. That was an overwhelming win for Dragovon on the front side of Corvinus's base, but I don't think he sees what's going on in the back with his Grand Winery. We see that picture on the lower left. Now he pulls those villagers, but he's going to lose a lot here. These villagers are running around, not by the town center. They're trying to get by the gate to get somewhere safe, and that's the first time that his food has been idled in a while.
Now, keeping in mind Byzantines has the wonderful olive oil, it needs to have the food to keep pumping. And that's just not the case for Dragovan right now. The thing is, he does have double the army value, and he is back in Corvinus' base. So if he can find some damage, it could be okay. But Corvinus is very quick to react. And it doesn't feel like the reinforcements from Dragovan's base will be enough to deal with all these lances, at least for now.
Yeah, I don't really think so either. Hopefully he's going to be able to get some, maybe just from Golden Gate or otherwise. Looks like Corvin is trying to stabilize his food. He knows the granary transition isn't something that he could do. It would absolutely ruin his tempo, and being Tang Dynasty also doesn't help. So he's going to put a keep over there by that sacred site, by a deer pack, trying to keep himself a little bit safe. But Dragovon, he's already in the back of the base. Wayman, I don't see if he has siege engineering on the blacksmith technology, but he's going to need something to take down some buildings if he's going to want to do some damage.
Especially because those units are stuck back there. They're going to die at some point. The question is just when. So these units need to take down a lot of things as they're going down. And they're about to run into a very healthy amount of villages. There is a gate for them to run to. But he needs to get damage here because that's a very big chunk of army. And once he loses this, he's going to be very, very vulnerable to another big raid coming from Corvinus. Now, Corvinus also slowing down on the food, as you mentioned. 53 food per minute right now. The poor man is starved out completely, but he is on those deer, so they will be dropping off. Got a little bit of idle time there too. Longbow's doing an amazing cleanup, and it looks like Corvin is just engaged a little bit too early. The longbow's being moved to the other side, but running into the fight. And the fight doesn't look like it's going too well anymore. But Dragovan, with those 3 units being reinforced from the back, he's going to keep pumping that pressure.
Yeah, and that's kind of the thing, Wayman. Yeah, that mask got mopped up, and this kind of goes to show, especially for the English players out there, number one, how dare you? But secondly, with those longbowmen that are back there, if you get them in a bad spot, you can't get them out. Like, they're slow. They're not going to be able to get there. So having those longbowmen there, the limited A that were there as well, proves to be kind of difficult. Now, Dragovon, he still has the military mass. He's got 45. Corvin is now finally going into a different dynasty. The Tang Dynasty will be no longer going to go up with the Jiangnan Tower. But Dragovon just hit that sacred victory. I think with that keep, it's probably not going to last very long. But Corvin has probably thought he cleared up that back mass. So he was like, hey, I got some time to push. That army that I just took down was dead. I got to have a military advantage. Not so fast, my friend. Dragovon's got 20 up on you.
And the problem is, Byzantines is so good at replenishing their military, and we can see this from Dragoman just constantly putting pressure up. Even though those units are running straight for every ranged unit they can, they're just going down as quickly as Dragovan can micro them. Now, with that Sacred Site victory, it does divert the attention away from these raids, but it just feels like Corvinus is not able to keep up with that military mass. And with him being in Song Dynasty now, he can't think about going for that farm transition. But like you said earlier, it slows you down because you need the food. But now you need to reroute all your villages onto wood so you can slowly build those farms out. And we saw Dragovan is not scared of going right behind your base and idling your eco. So he's probably going to have to put those farms in a questionable position. Oof.
Oh, yeah, and some villagers going down for Byzantines, too, at a time when Dragovon has been decreased in the economic count for basically most of this game, but making a push in the middle here. Corvinus only has 13 Zugnu and a little bit of Horsemen in the background. These outposts, this town center with the hand cannon slits, essentially saving his life. I think that outpost has a spring-loaded placement, actually. Shooting from a nether region, the range on that was absolutely insane. But just having the ability to have some of those defenses, Zushi being very good at being a defensive civilization as well. So it's going to help you. Also, with the Song Dynasty, you're thinking, as Cal is alluding to, the granary transition might be imminent as we see how many villagers Corvinus has on wood. The problem is, Whamen, you got to keep making units, especially against Byzantines. Even though Dragovon was low on the economic count, because of the cisterns, his eco wasn't too tarnished. I mean, obviously, if you had equal economic count, Dragovon would be ahead, but it doesn't feel like that bad. It's almost like when you're playing with Mali. You know, you don't have enough villagers as the other guy, but you're still doing okay.
It feels like Corvin, I think for Corvinus himself, he probably feels like, I'm all right, I've got enough stone, I'm going to drop another keep, I should be okay. We saw that all that stone being spent right now, and that is possibly, I was going to say possibly a keep to protect the farms, but no, it's a keep to protect the front line, and he's going to lose so many villagers trying to get this up too, because this is just the power of pushing, and that is exactly what Dragovon is doing. He's putting that pressure constantly. The villager gap getting a little bit less right now. But he does get the keep up, and now Dragovon says, let me just run around. You probably have some farms. I'll quickly go deal with those. That keep is not in a position to defend your farms. That flimsy little wood wall is going to be the only thing standing between your farms and destruction.
You know, you talked about that villager count and that villager lead dwindling. It's gone. Wait a minute, it's completely gone. 26 villager kills, actually a total of 60 throughout the course of this game, and economic count 54-52. So Dragovon is ahead. Plus, with the cisterns, I know he's getting notoriously wet back there. There's 3 cisterns, water level 3, so it's going to be that economic source is going to be pretty high. You're going to be able to produce units at a very high speed as well. Take a look at the economy difference. One is getting 1,600 food per minute. The other one isn't getting anything, but it has a metric ton of gold. Now he's getting this granary transition. This is Dragovon's time where, okay, Corvinus is in a spot where he can be taken down. Let's see if we can take him down. That granary is dangerously close to that Byzantine army.
And you were talking about those spicy rams from Byzantines, and that's exactly what Dragovon is serving. This looks to be the death push, and now the only little bit of food that Corvinus has is going to be idled. We can see the Zugunu doing pretty well here, but I don't think they're going to do well enough with double the army count. So these Varangian guards being right in the middle of them, the horsemen being focused on by the longbows, and they do pretty well in terms of trading, but with those Varangian guards on the back line, they're just cleaning up everything.
Yeah, honestly, I mean, Corvinus, I feel like, has a good army composition for what's going on, right? I didn't see a lot of limit to Nay for Dragovon, obviously, because he sees a lot of the Zugnu, so it's going to be difficult. But those Kurosephans lighten it up. That keep, we saw it go up a little bit ago just to preserve that food. We saw it panned over just a little bit. Now it's gone. That wall is continuing to be open because Dragovon is going to be pouring units off of this side. Zugnu have to pull off the hold of a lifetime to stay in this game, and at a time when we thought Zushi was going to be able to roll over this. This is becoming, Corvinus is on the back foot here, I feel like.
And it feels like he was in the driving seat. He just didn't know where to drive at that moment. Dragovon capitalizing every single bit of army lead he had, making sure that he raids. We can see there's some alarms to the front side. Corvinus, he's using that stone, trying to get on the rest of the map, but again, so your food's idle. This is starting to look very, very scary, and there's going to be more idle time from your villages. The Byzantine Rams, they don't care about keeps. They're just going to go straight for you anyway. And the problem is Corvinus doesn't have the army numbers to actually split this up and go and deal with this. We can see him building a granary all the way on the other side of China just to be able to get a little bit of food income. The villagers are pulled, but there's going to be villager barbecue as well if he's not careful. Byzantine Rams leaving fire on the ground, some villagers taking a bit of damage, and the longbows just providing that little bit of support he needs to get this keep down.
Yeah, you know what that keep is for Dragovon? It's a speed bump. You can see by the time you even finished your sentence, Whamen, it was down to about half health and will continue to go down. You got Zugnu going there. Some villagers are going to try to get those torches out, literally fighting fire with fire. We'll see how good of a job it does for them. Another one ends up going down, but Dragavon has some reinforcements on the south side. A lot of them were damaged by this Greek fire. Let's see if they're able to take it down. Keep's going to go down. Villagers, a decent amount of them, are going to end up going down. Oh my god, it's still alive. 150 health.
But on 70 wood or 70 stone right now, he's spending every bit of stone he has, and I don't know if that's going to be enough to stop it from being on fire. So he might have to buy some of the stone to keep it up. Oh, no, never mind. The meditation
no.
garden is doing work. I thought it would be a lot more disabled since it's being surrounded by so many units here. 6 per minute right now. It does look like he has a little bit of stone income there, so maybe he just bought some. Yeah, he just bought some. He wants to keep that keep alive. It's his last hope, but I don't know if this is enough hope to keep him alive. The villagers, they're on the gold. He's trying to get what he can, but I don't know what unit Corvinus can make to put him back into the game. It looks like he's only getting double broadaxe now, which when you're going into a farm transition is something that is so important. And instantly, he is going for that only type of play that most people know when you are Zushi or China, and that's Nest of Bees, to try and come back from a very tough spot.
And you know, it's funny because I was thinking about, okay, what unit doesn't cost food? And Corvinus nailed it. The Nest of Bees are going to be able to help out because he's trying to, his granary on the east side is completely idle. He's got a granary on the northern side. Obviously, he's not getting the stacked granary damage. So Nest of Bees is going to be able to do some pretty good hits against those longbowmen. Got to remember, though, mangonels and Nest of Bees in the Castle Age a little bit different than they used to be. Lance Schnecht also in there with the Nest of Bees, so villagers are going to try to repair it, but they're going to get damaged too, Whamen. Corvinus is down 20 villagers, and Dragavon has no signs of slowing down.
Dragonman has Beasty in his ear right now, and I don't think Beasty is going to allow him to stop this push. The Byzantine Ram's just doing amazing, and this is exactly why Byzantines is banned in every single series we watch, or most of them at least. So the fact that he let this one get through, I don't know if this is going to be a little bit of a wake-up call for Corvinus, because Zushi is a very big pick. It's a very strong civilization. It's something that you could use on water maps. It's something that you could use in most of these matchups, and he just lost a very good pickup. So now the Byzantine Ram burning away. The keep does go down on Dragavan. He's 30 villages ahead, and he's living his best life right now.
And 30 villagers ahead as the Byzantine Empire. Oh my god. Especially with the cisterns that you have, right? Look at how much... let me just direct everybody to the top left portion of your screen. Dragavon's on 2,000 food per minute. So I don't really... He can make literally whatever he wants at this point. So the only thing he pretty much needs to do is get more production buildings. He has a lot of food. Now he's starting to spend it a little bit more. So much in the queue. He's got crossbowmen, limit to nay. Got to think about composition as well. It's a pretty food-heavy composition, right? So having that 2,000 food per minute, he's going to storm ahead right into Corvinus. Might get to the point where he even pop caps himself.
Now, getting to 136 when you are a Corvinus on 71, I think he's starting to feel... starting. That poor Nest of Bees trying to fire his last shot. The horse is getting impaled. Horse barbecues on the menu tonight. Longbows just going all the way through. Trying to focus on those Nest of Bees there at the back, and it does look like the villagers are pulling everything to try and repair them. The Nest of Bees does stay alive for a little bit longer, but it's not enough at all.
And even, did you see how important those Lance Connect are? Just having one or two of them. Hold that thought. Nobody cares anymore. Game number 1 is over. Dragavon taking game number 1 in a rather surprising fashion. Going to be starting on the right foot for Team Beastyqt. You can see the stats here on your screen, Whamen. Corvinus had a decent amount of gold, actually. More surprising than I thought, just in terms of how much gold he had, but it was definitely the food that crippled him.
Yeah, the food, I think just a little bit of greed of saying, hey, I have these pocket resources. I don't need to think about the farm transitioning at that point, but also maybe just throwing away those units that he had a very strong advantage on early game. I feel like Corvinus will learn from this. I see that the score is a little bit switched there at the top, but we know that the first game went to Dragavan with the help of Beastyqt, knowing that both of these players do have their team captains in Discord, telling them what they need to be thinking about and doing. So Corvinus, he has Puppypaw in his pocket there. Dragovan has Beastie. So we'll see which coach can guide their team member a little bit further. Now, I am very worried for Corvinus because losing on a civilization like this is going to be really demoralizing. But I don't feel like Corvinus gets down about stuff like this all the time. He should be able to keep a strong, steady head and focus on what am I going to do in the next games. And he's still got a lot of good civs in his pocket. I know Delhi has been getting banned a lot as well. I wonder if they're gonna let Dragovan get that too. And Dragovan gets HRE. Another civilization I did not think we would be seeing much of today. Tim, I know you've played against a lot of HREs. I know you're not an HRE enjoyer yourself.
They get forced march for free in feudal age. So it means any fight when there's foot soldiers involved, they can take it, right? They have the mobility for it. So they're going to be able to get there, right? For the Akka Chapel being around, if you use it as a lumber mill, the wood economy is absolutely insane. Maybe we see a lot of archers in here. Get yourself a Steel Series alias microphone. Shout out Steel Series. Thank you for getting this underway. Corvin is playing as the Malians in the color blue, spawning in the western side, going with a barracks. In Dark Age, we're going to see some Donzo play.
I am so excited to see this because I feel like this is something that Corvinus would not predict. And, oh, not Corvinus, Dragovan would not predict at all. And we can see that he is getting a little bit of wood, though. Oh, wait. Did I see them the wrong way? I saw them the wrong way. Corvinus. No, Corvinus is the man with the barrel. He's the one with the Donzo play. But why is Dragovan getting wood? Does he know? He knows. He knows, and that's Corvinus knew as well. Corvinus knows that Dragovan is a sneaky, sneaky boy who loves to make spearmen. I can't believe it. Both of them going for barracks blindly, just knowing their opponent. I'm floored right now, Tim.
And, you know, honestly, I like the play out of both, right? For Corvinus, he probably expects HRE to do a little something like this, right? Because Dragovan's a little bit outside of the box, so you kind of got a metagame a little bit to where Dragavan is going to do or what he's going to try to attempt. So Dragavan going with these spearmen, you got to remember too, because of the prelate, again, HRE Dark Age economy is better than the Malians. And there's no pit mine for Corvinus as well. He's got a couple houses over there, but he's not getting that gold trickle like it would help him to get Donzos anyway. Prelate on the other side is going to be able to help. There's 2 spearmen for the HRE. Donzos, though, do have the ability to be a little bit ranged and toss those spears out. But really quickly, Cal, can you click on that Donzo for Corvinus? Because I want to highlight something that's very important. Donzo have a melee armor. You see that giant shield that they got there. So not only can they throw the javelin, as you can see, that big, their spear, I should say, excuse me, that big spear that they got. But that shield adding a little bit of melee armor means toe-to-toe, the Donzos are going to do well against the HRE spearmen. But Dragavan can get more of them.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a really tough one for Corvinus to win, just because with HRE, you do have another choice in all of this. Once you do get those units to be extra low, you can always pull them back, and there will be a prelate or 2 at your base to be ready to heal them up and send them out to battle again. So the numbers are going to be more for Dragovan, and it doesn't look like he's moving out too aggressively. Corvin is moving out on the map as well. He's waiting until he has a clump of them together, and they will be running into one another. But this is not too greedy from Dragovan. We can see he's already on gold himself, trying to get that gold, trying to get to the feudal age most likely already. And this is really good for him, catching out these Donzos in the middle of nowhere. And the scout, the next target. And if he loses the scout, scout does get away to live another day.
Just a little bit safe. That was a good call, Whamen. I thought he was going to be able to catch up and take that scout, but not so much. For Dragavan also, it's kind of interesting for the HRE because the food is by the base because of the sheep, right? He's got a little bit of wood. Maybe that wood line's a little bit more forward, but with these Donzos that he has and the scout, what is he really going to do with these? There really isn't, like, I get he's going to want to do some aggression, but he's got back gold. He's got a prelate that can help with healing. As you can see, Dragavan pulling that prelate over to heal those spearmen. And the ability to heal in Dark Age like this for Dragavan is so, so important. Going up with the Akka Chapel right now, I don't think Corvinus has touched any bit of gold whatsoever.
He's probably pulling those villagers out right now. We can see a mining camp being dropped there, but Dragovan aging up with 5 villagers. This tells us he wants to play this game and he wants to play it quickly. He's already started making more spearmen, and now with Corvinus making those 5 donzos. Yes, this was to protect himself, but Dragovan pulled away at the right time and stopped the production when he needed to. These guys are going to be in a little bit of danger, but you just want to get a little bit of gold so you can get that spearman upgrade. But it looks like these villagers are in a bit of danger. He loses 1, and that is actually a massive pickup here. Doesn't mean HRE is behind, but he needs to be a little bit more careful.
I was really surprised he didn't react to that. Also on the south side, losing that villager, because you're right, that's one villager that operates at 40% faster than any other villagers, right? So losing that one villager, especially that early in the game, is very important. But Dragovan looking to take the battle to Corvinus' side. Here's this pit mine around. There's a villager here that's very not safe. I think he's going to even the score if he's quick enough. Let's see if he's going to be able to get that villager over there, at least create a little bit of idle time. But now these houses are very ripe to start taking down. Dragovan getting the feudal age upgrade as well for those spearmen. Going to make sure that they do a little bit more damage. Corvinus might end up getting housed, this Cow's alluded to also.
The problem with Malians is you really struggle with wood in the early game as well. So rebuilding those houses, even though they're cheap, they're really difficult to maintain once you start getting denied. And he's only going to have enough gold to get his feudal age. If Dragovan decides to go for the pit mine, this is going to be a lot harder for him to even get his Donzos upgraded. But the Donzo numbers are scary enough, so he does get to pull away. The houses, he does get housed, but we can see the houses being dropped pretty quickly. That is just a way to slow Malians down. And that is, again, what we mentioned earlier. When you are playing with HRE, you have that choice. Do I do that early game aggression, or do I just go for a fast castle? But Dragovan, we know what he loves to do, and he just keeps doing it. Now with archers on the way as well, this is going to mean that Corvinus is going to have to invest so much more to stay up to level with Dragovan's army.
And for Dragovan, he is going as fast as he possibly can, right? Force March is going to be helping him out because Corvinus just hit that feudal age button 20 seconds ago. The amount of delay that Dragovan was able to do with essentially 4 spearmen is insane, honestly. For Corvinus, he's probably going to get up around the 645, 650 mark. At that time, we're going to see a nice group of archers that might make their way around to the base. Hopefully, he's going to be able to stop that outpost down. If you're Dragovan, maybe you're going to be able to move your way over there. But Corvinus, he's not making any units right now. He's trying to get a little bit of gold to try to help himself out. But this is a fight that Dragovan absolutely wants to take. The outpost ends up getting canceled. Corvinus is definitely on the back foot here, Whamen.
And it feels like he's just trying to get as much gold as possible before this push starts. The next gold is on the bottom side, so he should be able to rotate and get from there. But for how long until Dragovan goes there himself? We see double archery range being dropped. And even though, yes, javelin throwers are great against archers, they're not that great if you don't have any gold income. And this gold income is going to be very crippled pretty soon. We see the archers trying to focus fire a village or two, and they do get a little bit of damage, but he does pay the price. But this is still a very scary army. And again, how's this cow is pointing out. So even though he's going to be clicking up, making a javelin throw or two, he needs to make houses. And now, you know, Malian's making a house in his wood line. That's never what you want to see.
Oh, no. Yeah, having that house around the mine means you got to move to get to work, right? And mine that pit. So that not giving that gold trickle to help you out. Corvinus finally getting that veteran, or I should say feudal age, for the Donzos, the feudal age upgrade. Dragovan adding in a couple horsemen as well. You can see the difference in economy, Wham, in this HRE feudal economy that we talked about. Dragovan sitting about almost 600 food per minute, almost 500 wood per minute, vastly going above Corvinus's economy right now because he hasn't had time to set anything up. He doesn't have a pit mine again. He's trying to get that gold over there on the south side of his base. And if Dragovan spots that, again, he's going to be without gold. So the Malians, they want to get to Castle Age. They want to get a cow boom. They want to whatever. And he's doing completely opposite of what the Malians want to do. Dragovan's doing an excellent job.
The problem, I think, for Dragovan, or not for Dragovan, for Corvinus, is the fact that every bit of gold that he gets is going straight into javelin throwers. And we know the whole point of Malians is the fact that they do get that free food, they do get that amazingly strong economy from the cows. And it just feels like he's never going to get there. Javelin throwers do pick up a little victim there with the spear in his hand, but Now the army is rotating right towards that second gold because we know Corvinus has to be somewhere to get that gold. And again, those houses are going to be in danger. With those horsemen, just to substitute that hole in the army you need to deal with javelin throwers, it's going to be really, really hard for him to handle. The javelin throwers do pretty okay, and the Donzos supporting them just now. He does need to be careful because those spears, they hit quite hard.
And, if you're learning how to be an aggressive player in Age of Empires 2 or Age of Empires 4, oh my God, I picked the wrong Age of Empires. In
It's
Age of
okay.
Empires 4, uh, watch this game over. When you're being aggressive, a civilization that is trying to put a pressure on your opponent, you have to be doing something with it. You're stopping a particular resource. You're stopping, whatever a game plan is for your opponent, right? You're not just being aggressive and throwing units in here. Dragovon, everything that he's doing in terms of units or buildings, especially for the Malians, what he's trying to get down, all of this is calculated, right? He's going to these pit mines. He's stopping the game plan. So this aggression is really, really working. Military mass is always there, 27 to 22. He's using all of his resources. His macro is fantastic in terms of how much resources he's actually allocating into those units. And he has rock, paper, and scissors as a composition. So this is going to be very, very difficult for Corvinus to deal with. He might just get rid of this pit mine. I don't know if he actually wants to stop to defend this, because I don't think he can.
And you can see he's really trying to get those houses up, even though he knows he's going to lose them. It feels like, okay, I just need to get a little bit of gold so I can keep staying in this game, keep making units. But now with 300 gold, let's see, he just makes a bunch of javelin throwers again. I don't think we have a lot of cows on this map just yet. And it's starting to get worse and worse now for Corvinus. Now, he is substituting with a few archers, but I don't think this is a choice. This is just a, hey, I don't have enough gold to keep making these javelins. We see one cow in the pen at the moment. Pretty lonely. A little bit of extra food per minute, but not enough to sustain an army like this. But now, Corvinus is the one being the aggressor because he knows Dragovan is definitely not farm transitioning. He's out there on the map on food, and he is going to run into some juicy villages with no
Uh-oh.
wheelbarrow.
Dragovon, react to this. Dragovon, pay attention. Dragovon, oh no. That's a lot of villagers that are going to go down, and very, very quickly. Almost all of his deer villagers might go down. That was what Corvinus needed to get himself back into the game, and he did that perfectly. Again, it becomes when the E becomes the aggressor, right? Going to be able to take down a lot of these villagers. Dragovon sitting at 25, and most of them being idle at this point. So yes, he has the military mass, but Dragovon's going to have to catch up in terms of that aggression. And what's he going to do? He's going to barrel into that Malian base, just like that. Villagers from that pit mine going to have to relocate. Woodline as well, going to have to be moving out of the way. Looks like he tried to get that Manticore just a little bit. However, now these villagers for the Malians are going to go down. Game 2, Whamen, it's chaos.
It's absolute chaos, exactly as predicted with these two. They just don't play standard. They're always going to give you the best show of your life. And this army from Corvinus is not here to shut this down. Even though Dragovan might lose quite a bit here, those villagers again are idle. And his economy now working extra hard. He's learned his lesson. He's gotten a wheelbarrow. But these archers are doing a lot of good work. One villager standing outside the TC does survive to tell the tale. But Dragovan does not want to lose this whole army. Because if he does, he's going to be in a lot of danger. Now, only with a 5 villager difference, he should be okay because of the HRE economy, but he's in a lot more trouble than he was earlier.
And you know what's great about the HRE too to highlight, because I know I talked about this once or twice, is forced march from the Holy Roman Empire, having the ability to get that, right? So those spearmen, those archers, took a little bit less TC fire. They were able to retreat and get out of harm's way, so you dodge the Malian mass as well. So ended up being a pretty good trade and a good factor for Dragovon. But now we're going to be talking about food problems for the HRE. We saw that for Zushi in Game 1. HRE could also be that way. Those deer end up being compromised. Is he going to have to put a lot on wood to get a farm transition? And it looks like at the Alka Chapel, we're going to see some of those golden fields very shortly.
The problem is Corvinus now is being left alone, and Malians loves being left alone. He's going to just be able to get those cows up as much as he wants, and those pens are going to get nice and full pretty quickly. We do see that he has quite a bit on gold, and I'm just assuming everything is being spent straight onto cows to get that food source. We can see only 4 on food, So a lot of wood to just keep making those cow pens. They're plumping out left, right, and center, and they're going to be going right into those little cattle ranches for them to be safely making food for the village. Now, Dragovan stepping back, this is that point where you're like, okay, what am I supposed to do? We see he's pulled off of gold completely as well. So is this just the point where Dragovan doubles down, waits for the A drop, and goes straight for Corvinus's base, while giving him the idea that he's going castle himself? So giving him this fake confidence, like, hey, you don't need to keep making units. I'm gonna go for castle.
Oh, yeah, Dragovon is like, no, this game is ending with me in Feudal Age. He hasn't had a villager on gold for a pretty decent amount of time. I mean, he's got the blacksmith upgrades that he needs. He's got wheelbarrow. He's got double broadaxe. That's pretty much all that he really needs. Corbin is trying to get that pit mine over there on the northern side, but you kind of nailed it with the cow boom as well, Whamen. A lot of that gold that he has to mine, a lot of that passive gold is going into those cows. And this is why the Malians end up being vulnerable in feudal, because you're spending all of your money on this bovine species that can't fight for you. While on the flip side, Dragovon is just pumping units nonstop. So this is the time for Dragovon to strike if he wants to wait for Castle Age. I guess that's okay. But we know, because we have God Vision, he has a military mass of 56 to Corvinus's 31. He might be able to just move in there and win regardless.
The problem is, I think Corvinus now has spotted this with his scout. He saw there were no villagers on gold. You could see how many were actually, or how much was gathered. So he started making army yet again, but I don't know if this is going to be in time. That's 60 to 35, and Aethery army is kind of nice, especially with those upgrades there as well. He's focus firing all those donzos, and the horses are going to get right on top of those javelin throwers. Dragovan just getting an amazing advantage here. The trades are looking great, even though he's behind a few villagers. And yes, those cows on the pens producing all that food, you're going to struggle getting all that wood and gold back to keep making those units.
Yeah, I think Dragovon did a really good job of having those horsemen come in second. And that micro was pretty important. So the archers were able to take down a lot of those donzos, and then the javelin throwers were left. So Dragovon was able to get in there. Pretty good fight for Dragovon. Military mass 48 to 14. A spearman essentially rising from the dead. I thought Undead was just Warcraft 3, but here we are with 1 HP, taking down that villager and making sure that pit mine isn't there. We got another spearman in the wood line, just kind of hiding out, being a little stealthy, looking for a Malian villager to try to get there. But Dragovon is going to continue to pump units. Corvinus does have, as Cow's alluding to on the left side, almost his full cow boom, but he has to translate it into something. You can see how many cows are out there. He can get the Grand Fulani Corral if he wants to, but the problem is he's going to need to spend 1,800 resources when he would rather be pumping units. And Whamen, if Corvinus doesn't continue to make units, he's dead.
The problem is Corvinus, he is making units, and you can see he's spending every bit of resource that he has. He's got the cow boom set up, and that means he's going to have a lot of resources, a lot of food to do that with. But I don't know if he's going to be able to make the right units to deal with Dragovan's army. That is about to change, because as we can see, 700 wood as well now. That means he's just farm transitioning at his own pace. And 6 on gold. That means we might be smelling a castle soon enough. He gets siege engineering though, so apparently the wood not just for farms, but also for a few rams.
Yeah, and I think once you have a lot of experience, as these players do in AoE 4, you're going to see that you have a surplus of a resource, and then you're going to rack your brain and be like, okay, what can I do with this? So he gets siege engineering because he's got this 700 wood. As soon as siege engineering is done, look at all these rams that come out. Now there's about 3 or 4 different rams that come out, and now his wood is completely gone. So that's really important when you're playing this game. Making sure if you do have a resource and you ended up stockpiling it, maybe when you floated it when you necessarily didn't want to, how can you use it effectively? He uses those rams to do it very effectively.
Oof, and he does spot a little stray villager here from Dragovan. Dragovan getting those cheeky towers. A lot of villagers going idle here. So a little bit of damage here by Corvinus, even indirectly. But those javelin boys, we need them back home, because this is about to be really, really scary. And the archers just making sure these donzos are made of paper, falling left, right, and center. Houses going down. Corvinus about to get pop-capped yet again, I say, but I realize he's going to lose so many units. He might still be fine, even losing all those houses.
All of those horsemen and those spears were trying to get on those villagers on the western side. Corvinus did a little bit of a magic trick for the garrison, for the town center to try to take him down, but Corvinus's army looks like it's going to start to thin out just a little bit. We got some javelin throwers on the south side and kind of using almost like a choke point on that north side, trying to make sure that horsemen don't get us surround. Overall, from this, I thought this was going to be this game-ending push from Dragovon, but Corvinus held pretty effectively.
Yeah, definitely did a really good job at holding this. I do feel a little bit worried here for Dragovon in terms of getting out of this from here on out. The villagers do seem a little bit desperate though, so he is getting still a lot of damage, and now Corvin is extending with those a little bit more. It looked like he was going to be able to hold out, especially considering that he is getting all the food for free. But now he's sacrificing more and more villagers as the time goes on, because it just looks like he's not sure how to react to this.
Yeah, I don't really think so either. I mean, in terms of the idle time, essentially, for Corvinus, I mean, I know for the Malians, you know, you get a lot of your income from buildings, but having those villagers on something is very effective, but very clutch javelin throwers coming in from the south side, that little bit of a flank. There was an archer ball that was still over there. Now they have to run away. They do have the speed to do so, obviously, for Dragovon, but military count now, even though, you know, you create a little bit of idle time, you killed a decent amount of villagers, Dragovon now has the lead in economic count. The military mass is even when Dragovon essentially had him doubled before.
Yeah, I think the problem here for Dragovan now is the Malians' economy is going to start doing the talking, right? Javelins are going to keep being produced, and it doesn't feel like he has the economy to handle this. I don't know what his farm transition's looking like, but from the minimap, it does look like there are quite a few, but not as many as you would want at this point for HRE. Oh, Cal pointing out that mill. I feel like this mill is going to get deleted at some point. It was just there for the berries, hopefully. And no berries were harmed in the making of that chapel. Because, damn, we do not want to see this keep happening. The problem now is, I think HRE's economy slows down now, right? Because this prelate is... The whole chapel is not being inspired, or it's not inspiring the whole economy anymore. The wood line is all the way in China. And this is just going to mean that the archer mass that he had is not going to be as effective. But we do see some men-at-arms being clicked on now. And the Grand Fulani Roll coming out for Corvinus now, this is going to be so good for Corvinus. That this is probably the most vulnerable he's going to be for a little while. And I don't think Dragovan has the right amount of units to do anything about this just yet. With that amount of javelin throwers, you're going to be pretty much ready to fight that HRE army that Dragovan has. The Fulani Roll, the longer you leave it, the deader you are. So this is going to be so important for him just to micro perfectly.
Yeah, he definitely doesn't have the mass. I mean, based on what Corvinus has in terms of his army composition, going to be good against Dragovon because it's predominantly an archer ball that Dragovon essentially has. He's using some horsemen to try to raid over on that western side. I think we're going to get to a point where Dragovon sees the notification that Corvinus went to Castle Age, and he's going to be like, how does that happen? How is that even possible? But the Malians could do it. Why? Because you were taking down a little bit of villagers, right? Maybe you could have had them in the army instead, trying to take down the Malian army. But you didn't do anything to the cows. He was able to remake pit mines at 150 wood, I think is how much a pit mine is. So his economy, even though, you know, obviously some villagers went down, the Malians can deal with it a little bit just because of the fact that they get their food from cattle ranches and cows instead of villagers gathering it.
Now, I love the fact that Dragovan is... It looks like that he's just going to go for castle himself. He realizes, okay, this might be the right move. And he does have the economy to do so. We can see him being that many villagers ahead. It's not something you want to see as HRE, but this army of Corvinus, it's looking a little bit cocky right now. You do not want to be the one moving out. Not at this point. You just hit castle, you got your upgrades, but you know Dragovan has invested into army. If you move out and you lose any more, you're going to be dead. I feel like he just needs to be patient and let Malians, you know, start booming, start exploding.
Yeah, and going into an HRE base is always a little bit concerning for me, just because of the ability for them to like emergency repair and, you know, get all of their outposts with all of the defensive emplacements that they need. But Dragovon, he did hoard a little bit of resources, and he's going to go up with the Regnant's Cathedral. You can see that farmlands around the Aachen is pretty much completed, minus a couple mills that Cow is obviously not pleased with. But with the Regnant's Cathedral, yeah, he's maulding. You can see it in the back. But Corvinus is trying to get some damage. Dragovon's going to be able to go up just a little bit safely. And because those Aukid fields are completed on the eastern side of Dragovan's base, he's keeping up with the Grand Fulani Corral, which is rather impressive.
And the Grand Falulani Corral is amazing to have, especially if your opponent is already at a little bit of a disadvantage. They just lost their army. But I felt like Dragovan just knew he just had to keep producing. And now Corvinus is instantly transitioning into Musafadis. We see 10 in queue right now, and that's just the power of the Malian economy. Being able to queue up that many so quickly. Regnus Cathedral now being completed. We're going to see those upgrades being clicked up instantly. This is not a fight Dragovan wants to take right now, but the Musafadis aren't in position either. So this is a very sticky situation. There's a handful of them, but the archers could target them pretty quickly. We do see the villagers are going to be idle here for a bit, and he just wants to kite it into the TC. The villagers are fully garrisoned into the TC, so doing quite a bit of work here. And I don't know if Corvinus wants to commit this much just yet. And we do see the upgrade is about to kick in here for our men-at-arms too, so this is going to be a harder and harder fight for him to take down. Archers not getting the upgrade just yet, but the numbers are dwindling too. So Corvinus taking a decent trade, getting a lot of idle time, but I feel like these men-at-arms are just going to start to do work now.
Yeah, you can kind of highlight how tanky those javelin throwers are when it comes to arrows, obviously. You know, the archers were for some reason they were kind of targeted on those veteran javelin throwers. You can see how much DPS they have. They have 12 deep damage on each javelin. So they can cut through some of that heavy armor that those men-at-arms have, and obviously Musafati are going to be able to help out as well. But look at how tanky they are on the TC. They have a mass of probably about 20-ish, 15-ish javelin throwers. They could just sit there. There's nothing Dragovad could do. There's no town center emplacement or anything that's going to help him out. Now, Man-at-Arms going into the Castle Age variety, but we do have some Musafati up there. Hopefully, Dragovan is targeting those Musafati with the town center. It looks like he is doing so effectively. Dragovan has a military count, Whamen. It's now 8, and he's going to need to mass up, and I don't think he has the resources to do it right now. Look at that, 27 food.
And the problem is that is 30 villagers idle, and Corvinus doesn't need any villagers to keep making units because he has those pit mines, he has those cows just producing everything he needs. The men at arms desperately trying to come and help these villagers that are left to die out here. And Corvinus honestly doing amazing. I just see the raid coming in from Demo. Thank you very much, Demo. Appreciate it, good sir. And guys, welcome to the second day of Forged and Steel.
Yeah, it's the second day, and it's wild over here. We've seen 2 games so far. This is the second game, and this has been crazy. You see, this hold by Corvin has had a little bit before. If you guys didn't see it before, you better go back and give it a look-see because it was rather impressive. And this is what Corvin is. I felt like he was on the back foot essentially in this series. But Dragovan tried to get aggressive in Feudal Age, didn't quite get that damage that he wanted to. And now Corvinus is at this, again, at this late game economy stage and where Dragovan is not. Corvinus can just pop cap in terms of military units. 15 Musafati in the queue, and continuing on javelin throwers, you're going to see Musafati going everywhere on the map. If you see it on the lower right-hand side of your screen, you just have little blue blobs running all over the place. Dragovan says, I am done. Musafati are going to be in my nightmares this evening, and Corvinus is going to tie this series 1-1. 1-1, yeah.
Yeah, and this is absolutely amazing play by Corvinus. I think he made some mistakes there in the early game, but he recovered perfectly fine out of this. Dragovan maybe just not knowing exactly how to deal with that Musafati switch coming out, and Corvinus just knowing exactly when to do that timing attack. Now, I don't know if Puppypaw had a hand in this, because I did see Puppypaw joining back into the channel a little bit later. So I feel like the timing understanding was the key here. And maybe Dragovan's side with Beastyqt, they just didn't know when that right timing was. Or maybe Corvinus was just too good with the Malian movement. So good job on Corvinus. And just the cow booming, showing us exactly what you need to be careful of.
Yeah, and I see people in chat talking about this also. That counter raid from Corvinus on that deer pack was probably what ended up equalizing everything, you know, getting the Malians back, making sure that you can get some of that booms and those pit mines up and all of that kind of stuff. So now Corvinus has tied it up 1-1. Maybe he feels like there's a little bit of, a little bit of momentum swinging in his favor. But now we've cleared away some of the trees on this mountain. It's mountain clearing. Game number 3, Rus versus China. This map is going to continue the chaos that we've had the first 2 games, I would imagine.
And that's exactly why we put this map into the map pool, because we were like, hey, if there's going to be a little bit of an outmatch series, this is the map where you can pull out some shenanigans and make it happen. Both these players known for shenanigans. So I'm really excited to see what these 2 boys pull out of their sleeves. We saw China on this map yesterday as well, I believe, and we did see Rus on it, and we saw English. And I remember back in the day, everybody was like, yeah, English is the one to go for, but it didn't seem to be the case. People seem to be able to adapt quite well with other civilizations as well. I think with the siege meta that we have now removed, it seemed to just be like, hey, we can now not just white tower rush and keep the middle. We actually need to make units and harass one another. Now, one thing about mountain clearing that I'm really worried about for these players is the fact that the wood lines are so far away from the TC most of the time. So it does open it up to possibly a lot of raids. So let's see who rates the hardest.
And I think, both of these civilizations have the ability to do this in Feudal Age if Corvinus chooses to do this with Rus, of course, but both of them have the ability to get a massive 5,000 hit point outpost when they go to Feudal Age, right?
Exactly.
So you're talking about the raids on the wood line, or do you want to be aggressive with it? Throw a Barbican up there, throw a Kremlin up there in the middle of the map. So there's choices for all of these guys. And for Dragovon, what we've seen out of the first 2 games, I'm expecting a little bit of chaos as we can take a look at the standings of what's going on behind the scenes. Obviously, you're watching Dragovon and Corvinus on twitch.tv/Steel Series. Get yourself Steel Series headset and a microphone. But Killjardy and Cat also are starting to play some games, and Killjardy's got the first game on Cat.
And that is exactly why Beasty bought Killjardy. He felt like this player was just going to be able to take down anyone, even without his guidance. So really strong pickup there from Beasty. But now we're back with Corvinus in the blue and Dragoman in the red. We have China versus Rus. And now, Tim, you said something about being aggressive and putting it in the middle of the map. After watching the games yesterday, I don't think people will be doing this at all. It just feels like you need that defensive structure, otherwise your resources are going to be completely raidable and you're going to get taken down. So I feel like if a person does it in the middle of the map, they're just asking to be raided constantly, because we're not caring about that sacred site that much anymore, because these games are staying in feudal most of the time.
Yeah, that's a super good point. And you see this a lot with China because you feel like they're this defensive reactive civ because of the fact the Barbican exists, obviously, and obviously they have, hand cannon slits on town center and that kind of stuff. But what you also need to remember is, just like you said, if they put the Barbican up there, or if Corvinus puts the Kremlin up there, your base is exposed, right? So you can put that Barbican in the middle, make it a Borbican if you'd like to, around that sacred site. But Corvinus would probably have half a mind to think, well, I don't really care. I'm just going to go around it, I think. And hopefully, when they get defensive like that, they put those Barbicans and those Kremlins in those areas. Maybe they'll be able to stop some raids. But if you've seen Rus on this map, and I don't know if you have, Whamen, have you seen any Golden Gate shenanigans?
We have not seen Golden Gate shenanigans yet, but I wouldn't count this out. This is the right kind of player for Golden Gate shenanigans. My question here, though, would be, wouldn't the middle placement for China actually be pretty good? Because you secure a gold and you secure the ball. So it wouldn't be the worst placement of the Barbican, all things considered. But I think the woodline still poses that big question. And I think the value of the Kremlin is just too much, though, Tim. So the Kremlin just provides so much protection here. I don't think you want to give that up.
Yeah, and especially because if you're alluding to games usually being in feudal or ending in feudal, that wood economy that you're going to get from it is really important, right? Obviously for the imperial officials, for China, you have the ability to supervise, right? Corvinus doesn't have the ability, but hold the phone.
Oh my
Exactly
gosh.
as we just talked about. Yeah, Kremlin get defensive, Barbican get defensive. Look at this, we're big, strong casters, and we know what we're talking about. There's a Kremlin smack dab in the middle.
This seems dangerous because now exactly what I mentioned earlier, that Kremlin is not going to be there to protect the woodline. That Kremlin is not going to be there to protect your gold. You're going to be very, very open to a player who's so aggressive. So Corvinus needs to be careful here. And that ball better pay off pretty quickly. So I'm a little bit scared for Corvinus here. The Imperial Academy coming down for Dragovan. He's probably aware of this going down, but the Imperial Academy, the safe choice here. Not being too cheeky. We'll see if he goes for the Song Dynasty or what the play is going to be here from Mr. Dragovan. But the Kremlin being here in the middle, I am assuming he's just going to be snacking on that ball pretty soon. I wonder what the scout is going to be doing. Hopefully not dying today. Is that ball going to be fighting back?
That's a super heads-up play by Corvinus, because I had a feeling Dragovan was going to pull that pork around. What's really nice is, even though, the scout might end up following it or whatever the case, the boar will end up going back eventually, as it does. It does have a little radius that it ends up getting there. So Dragovan's going to continue to try to do something about it, but Corvinus kept his scout around, so the boar wouldn't be able to go get villagers while the Kremlin was getting made. And now the Kremlin's going to be able to take down the boar no problem. Right next to the Kremlin, 8 villagers are going to be able to gather around it. And remember, the Roost bounty changes now that feel a little bit old, but are very much relevant. The fact that you get, for every 10 food of hunt, you get 1 gold for bounty. So the boar having 2,200 food, you could do that math. He just gets handed 220 gold for free.
Now, just one thing to take note of, that boar didn't die in an optimal position. So we see some villagers standing around that boar, a little bit idle, not being able to gather from him. He realizes it and pulls them off. So these guys are going to have to go back onto sheep. But Dragovan now, it looks like he is floating quite a bit of resources. Are we just going to see a fast castle and an Beastyqt of the Sun being dropped? We'll see it in the middle as well, just to secure the fact that that sacred site is not going to be for free, and he does get a forward gold in return as well.
And based on the Kremlin for the vision of this Whamen, Corvinus is going to see this. I'm curious to see whether he chooses to react to it or not. We do have a scout torching it down, but it's not really going to do too much. I don't see him with any military production buildings right now in terms of making units, but he did pull a couple Kremlin gremlins. So for how long this Barbican takes, even though Chinese villagers could build a little bit faster, are the gremlins going to get over there in time to stop Dragovan from doing what he wants to do?
He'll be able to get it up, but he might need to pull a villager back. The scout vision we love, but we want to see that Barbican, Cal, quickly! The villagers are forced off, which is so, so tough, because every moment counts here, and he might lose one of those to go down. But the thing is, keep in mind, this is China. On Song Dynasty, they are pretty much okay. They're going to be okay with just getting that villager lead back in time. He's pulled more villagers. He says, let's get those full HP ones to finish the job. The Kremlins are getting a little bit low right now. And remember, they do lose HP by the second, so the villagers will be able to turn around and kill them eventually. And with all those boys being there, the one villager getting pulled to the side, instantly going to be garrisoned, and no villagers go down, but a lot of idle time has been paid. But do you see those resource floats from both these players?
Oh, yeah. They are definitely purposeful floats, as we're seeing here. Corvinus going to be at about almost 600 gold. The bounty helping him out as well. And Cow is highlighting a wonderful high trade house spot if Corvinus wants to go in that direction. Or does he choose the Abbey for those super quick relics? Oh, my God, that high trade house spot. I think Corvinus, with these scouts, I think he's trying to find the best high trade house spot. If he puts it there, oh my God, the amount of gold that he's going to get. The high trade house is so great because the Abbey of the Trinity, okay, he puts it on the eastern side. The Abbey of the Trinity, obviously you need the warrior monks and you need the relics and all of that stuff to get them. The high trade house, with the amount of gold per minute you get from it, it's like getting handed a couple relics, which is fantastic. It's just about actually trying to build it. Dragovan's scout is being rather bothersome in this direction, just creating a little bit of idle time. There's that high trade house, and I'm curious if we're going to see somewhere around 200 gold per minute or something like that, because the high trade house gives a lot more tempo than the Abbey because you just get handed 2.5 relics.
It's not just the fact that you get handed 2.5 relics, you get unlimited food for a very long time. And we saw that's exactly what Corvinus struggles with. But I want you guys to keep in mind here, this astronomical clock tower is going to be quite difficult to deal with, because now you're going to be getting siege, and you're going to be placing them under the Barbican, and you're going to be able to take down that Kremlin pretty quickly. And we don't see any production buildings out from Corvinus yet. He's still focusing on castle, but let's see what he decides to go for. He's going to need to find something that can deal with a trebuchet, a nest of bees, and I feel like China is in a little bit of a stronger position here, but beautiful block there by Dragovan, stopping that high trade house from being plopped down so quickly. So him aging up with 3 just means he matches that age up speed from the 12 villages on the high trade house. No production buildings out just yet. Does this mean Corvinus is going for fast imp? I know this sounds crazy. Would the man be so brave? No, he goes for wood. He knows there are some limits. You can't just plop down this Baskaya and call it a day. So let's see what production building he plops down. Now, Drugvan, on the other hand, let's see the first 2 lances being queued up. No nest of bees, no sneaky shenanigans here. And we see the villagers now moving out onto those deer, and that's going to be quite juicy with the Imperial official supervising those 2.
Yeah, it just helps to, again, continue tempo, right? The astronomical clock tower kind of does that also because it's 300 wood you wouldn't need to spend otherwise, right? Creating that siege workshop. I'm curious to see what Corvinus actually goes for production buildings. He has a decent amount of food, decent amount of gold, so maybe he goes somewhere in the knight department. You know, a lot of times as Roos, when you're thinking about the castle age, a lot of people like to think about horse archers. I love to think about horse archers, but maybe that it doesn't end up being the case. He goes with the monastery to try to pick up some of these relics that he has. Very curious, Cal, if you want to click on the high trade house, just to see how much gold per minute that we are getting. I know it takes about a minute to calibrate. Everyone get your guesses in chat if you have the ability to. Everyone take a couple seconds, figure it out. 5 to 10 more seconds as we see a scout getting a little bit into Dragovan's territory. We'll be clicking on that high trade house very shortly, and we'll see who ends up winning.
Unfortunately, with that high trade, oh, Cal is just teasing us right now. He knows what we want to see. We want to see that gold per minute. 15 per... Oh, he's just showing us the wrong things. Now, unfortunately, 258, not a bad one. That's going to be 1 permaban. I see for Holtzy in the chat. Very well done, sir. Good guess. Permabans for free.
I see Kazamalu also with 260, 270. So that was a pretty good one. Shukalicious says 420. We're not going to be blazing it here on twitch.tv/SteelSeries, but thanks for the guess. You win absolutely nothing. And thank you for playing. Corbin is going to be adding in some crossbowmen. Corbin is going to be adding some crossbowmen here with this archer range. And obviously against Lancers, it's a good pick. He's going to be able to use the Kremlin Gremlins, those militia as well, just to make sure he doesn't get too much in the way of economic problems. But Dragovan, because of Song Dynasty, is going to be up in the economic count, 44 to 35.
And that's just the power of China in this matchup. I think a lot of people underestimate the ability of Song Dynasty to do this much in a 1v1 game this quickly, especially on such a small map as well. Now, while Roos does have all that free gold coming in, you have that unlimited food being produced at the back there. Ooh, and unfortunately a Lancer going down here at the front. A little bit sloppy there for Mr. Dragovan. Not that I would have been able to do it any better. Both my Lancers would be dead. So, no judgment, just worry for our Chinese player. But now, the nest of bees is coming in hot, and the boar is about to run out. That's going to mean that Corvinus is going to have to be thinking about some other food sources, and I'm not too sure what he's going to be eating except for those deer at the moment.
Yeah, a very carnivorous diet for Corvinus, as we're seeing here. There are some deer that have been kited over there before that he hasn't gotten yet. There are berries that are relatively safe that he can get as well. But it goes to show how good this bounty system is for the Roos as the game gets a little bit later. The high trade house is going to continue to not only give you that food, but it gives you even more of a passive trickle of gold, not only just from the high trade house, but every deer that pops out is 35 gold, right? Because it's hunted bounty. So he's going to be able to continue to do that. Has a lot of warrior monks here as well, healing those gremlins. Those gremlins, I don't know why. They keep getting themselves in danger. Losing 1 or 2 HP. Those warrior monks, man, they got some work to do. Look at them. Just constantly healing. It's a never-ending circle.
And you can see he's making more of them. He's actually thinking about this as a strategy, and I'm expecting those gremlins to be the ones that are going to take care of the siege at the back here. So those warrior monks working really, really hard, and he stopped producing them. He says 5 is enough. The trebuchet is doing work now, and actually focusing down that hunting cabin first. Not because it's getting gold, but because, you know, it's right there on top of the berries too. We just want to make sure that this is as annoying as possible. Misses a shot there. The poor ground not making it today. The Lancer, though, getting a little bit of a slowdown on that wall as well. And this is so valuable for Dragovan. He wants to delay this game as much as possible because we know China late game, but also we know the ability of Dragovan to do some crazy things. And right now, Corvinus is a little bit behind in finding a response to what I would say Dragovan is offering.
I do love this heads-up play that he was doing with the Sacred Site, having multiple warrior monks to heal through the hand cannons of the Barbican, so he's able to capture it. Trebuchet also trying to take down that Kremlin as best as it can, but I really like Corvinus's composition here. I mean, obviously, you know, he's got the Gremlins, but you're seeing mostly Knights, or Lancers, I should say, out of the Chinese. Corvinus has that anti-Knight composition of spears and crossbows, and then he's adding mangonels in the back. Getting that Sacred Site is so clutch, just like you said with that Chinese late game economy, but just putting your opponent on a timer in general is so important. And now we're going to be able to charge that Clock Tower Counterweight Trebuchet, one of the longest names that it has to offer. Another one pumping out. It does have a lot of health. It has 210 health, a little bit more, but it's going to go down rather quickly to all of these melee units. The Nest of Bees is going to go down as well. It looks like, wait a minute, it looks like Dragovan has nothing.
The problem there was just simply losing 3 very expensive siege units. And just like that, I think he went from having one of the bigger leads here to just absolutely nothing. And Corvinus is capitalizing on this. He doesn't have any military upgrades though, so these will take a little bit of damage, but it is still a little bit dire. Let's see. He will probably not get that off. They do go down. 1 relic out of that as well. So this... Oh, and he yoinks. The man yoinks. But he does go down.
I was like, this is... Oh, there's another one. Oh, that's going to go down too. Oh my God. Wait a minute. Okay.
Oh,
Jesus.
that was close.
Those warrior monks are tanky. Oh my God.
They are. And the fact that they were keeping all these units alive for so long. Now, the problem with the Barbican being that far out, we can see now this is a very exposed base. The villagers are trying to get a tower up, trying to, you know, keep a semblance of control here, but Corvinus is in a very good position, and now he's got the siege control.
And, I mean, don't get me wrong, from Corvinus, we all could appreciate, especially from a caster's perspective, a little bit of flash with those warrior monks, but got to remember, he didn't go for Abbey of the Trinity, so those are full price. They're 40 food, 200 gold. That's a lot of resources to spend. If you're trying to get a cheeky Wololo, obviously that could be a game-ending Wololo, but you might want those warrior monks a little bit back up, or maybe yoinking that relic to save it, to continue to get that gold per minute. But otherwise, he did create a little bit of idle time with those villagers, crossbowmen, trying to kite these spearmen. But while all of this is going on, he's doing these Wololos, he's massing up a little bit, he's adding some trebuchets. You can see it on the top right-hand portion of your screen. Tick, tick, tick. He's on a timer.
And now that Barbican is just going to die. There's nothing that will keep it safe now. We do see 2 more Nest of Bees being queued up. He's going to have 4 total, but if he doesn't move those well, like he just did in the last fight, this is going to be a very, very short push for Corvinus. And now with that Sacred Site timer pushing, I feel like 7 minutes goes by so quickly. So we'll see if Dragovan can take this 12 village lead that he has right now and actually make something with it. We do see red lights going off in the blue base, but Cal really loves the Sacred Site, so we'll watch it a little bit more. The Lancer, we finally get a little bit of vision on the man. He takes down a village or 2. And now the Trebuchet rolls forward.
You knew when you said that Cal was going to focus on only the Sacred Site, and he might do that for the next 7 minutes. Lancer trying to get there, but the Gremlins will be able to take it down. Dragovan looking for food. Oh, yeah. Give me that picture with that Sacred Site. Look at that blue flag in all its glory. Jeez, it's like a Neil Armstrong effect on the moon. Look at that thing. On the north side for Dragovan, he's trying to extend out to go for a little bit of food. You can see a red pocket over there on the north side. So he's trying to get some food because that's really what he's lacking in terms of count. He does have a decent amount of siege. Corvinus using springholds, actually, with the amount of spears, but Nest of Bees with a massive shot on a lot of those crossbowmen. They end up going down. They're actually going to target the Mangonel, so the Mangonel gets popped, but Dragovan doesn't really have too good of a front line to deal with this. The springholds might be able to take care of those spearmen if he kept them there. Now the Kremlin Gremlins are going to be adding some reinforcements. Corvinus is doing such a good job of keeping this sacred site because of being offensive. Because sometimes, Whamen, the best defense is a really good offense.
Oh yes, and you can see that's exactly what Dragavan wanted to do with those Lancers, but somehow, I don't know why we're seeing Springles in this game, because I thought they were deleted in the last patch, but apparently they were very much alive. One villager hoping to keep that nest of bees alive. The spearmen doing as much work as they can, but it is just all going down. The Springles do all go down as well, though, and there's 2 nest of bees left, but also 2 trebuchets from Dragavan. Now, it might look okay for Dragavan from here, from the viewer's perspective, but he's just lost his clock tower. He's lost 2 landmarks. He's losing a village, which is so expensive to replace. But I don't know if he's going to be able to have the army to push this back in the next 5 minutes.
And that's the thing. He needs to do something. You know, it was pretty crazy watching. I saw a Springald target a nest of bees, and the Springald hit it with the Springald bolt, and nothing happened. So the wild experience. For the first 8 seasons, that was not the case. Now, those Springalds aren't going to really do too much. Now that he has some of these trebuchets in the back, he still has that Kremlin in the back, which is safe. What's really interesting with the Kremlin as well is you could just use wood to repair it, right? So he can continuously, with how much wood income that the Roost gets, he can continuously get this thing up, or get the ability to get some more defenses. Maybe he wants a keep up. Maybe he wants wooden fortresses with Springald upgrades that could prove to be effective as well. But Dragavan, again, 4.5 minutes, China, plus 13 villagers. He just only has 4 minutes to make it count.
The problem is those are horse archers, and they are simply a distraction because we see the men-at-arms switch at the back here too. And that's going to be so hard to deal with because Dragavan has nothing to deal with men-at-arms. There's a ton of nest of bees, but they don't do well in close combat, and those guys look like they're going to be collapsing on top of the siege. They do have to pull back the trebuchets. We see the nest of bees a little bit confused about where to attack, and they do get some decent shots off, but this is still a very, very expensive loss. And I don't know if Dragavan is going to be able to get out ahead of this, because now, once those men-at-arms join this party, they're just going to take down all these siege units, and we see them streaming in. More Springalds as well, 6 Springalds at the moment, dealing with that land mass. So, a few nest of bees make it out, but not for too long.
Yeah, and I think, you know, with Corvinus, he can continue to do this, right? He has a lot of men-at-arms in the queue. He's got 4 in the queue. He's got a couple spearmen in the queue as well. He can just continue to parade things into his base, and then he's adding Springalds with a little bit of wood economy that he has. So a lot of the units, the spearmen that Dragavan has, they're going to end up going down. But Corvinus has this because he's the Roost, and he has that food economy that's pretty safe. Look at Dragavan's food economy right now. He has as much food economy in this game as I do in this game. It was 0 for a second.
Yeah, and the problem is he's just focusing on getting those siege units out, and it's great, but not for close combat again. And we're 3 minutes away from that sacred site timer just taking over. I feel like Dragavan also not really sure how he's going to close this out, so he just keeps making more nest of bees, hoping that Corvinus miss micros and runs right into his units. But I don't think Corvinus is ready to give up the game. He's gonna sit strong and make sure to protect the sacred site, because that's all he needs to do. And Dragavan now, we see only a 6 villager difference. That fight from Corvinus, making sure that that's equalized, exactly what we see right here. Trebuchet is starting to fire yet again, though.
And, you know, it's rather impressive for Dragavan to actually get as many nest of bees as he did. I think that clock tower is still down. He was trying to repair it a little bit. So these are just regular nest of bees. Regardless, the amount that he's able to get, because of the fact that Corvinus has a lot of melee units, they don't get that bonus damage. But with all of these fireworks, is it going to be enough? It has to be for Dragavan, or he's going to start going down in this series. That little bit of food trickle that's there, he's trying to get some spearmen just to make sure those nest of bees are relatively safe. But Corvinus isn't going for any cavalry units. He has a couple horse archers, but that's kind of it. So having those spearmen, they're not going to have any kind of bonus damage. Essentially, they're just fodder for other spears and men-at-arms to make sure those nest of bees end up being safe. And now, rather reminiscent of Age 2, we have a little bit of a trebuchet war, hitting each other before the nest of bees are going to do something about it. Whamen, this is the fight that either wins or loses the game for either of these players. Nest of bees getting a nice little fireworks display. over there on the eastern side. Some spearmen end up going down, but Corvinus pulled the boys. Got a little Saint's Blessing on those Kremlin Gremlins as well. Let's see how effective they end up being. Springhold's trying to take down some of the spearmen that are outside as well. And I think for a lot of this melee mass that's over here for Corvinus, they're going to be able to withstand the firepower of the Chinese and start taking these bees down.
The problem is the bees only fire at range, and these guys are right on top of them. There's nothing to take care of them. We see a few stray nested bees trying their best. A spring out now from Dragoman trying to fight back, but the writing... What is that expression? The writing's in the sand? The writing is on the wall. There we go. It's on the wall. It's on the wall. Not on the sand. It looks like 20 seconds to go, and Corvinus takes his second victory. Beasty's coaching just not carrying Dragoman through to the final victory here. But the sacred site, Cal giving that big focus for us. Very well done, Cal. We do see him pushing back now.
Wait,
and are we really going to get a decap at 10 seconds? No. No.
9 seconds. It's stalled out a little bit. Those nested bees don't have a front line, though. Dragonvan's pulling the villagers in a rather climactic display for this game number 3, trying to repair those nested bees as best as he can. Still stuck on 9 seconds. Corvinus has got to get rid of all of these troops. Dragovan says that's quite enough.
Yeah. Dragovan, he did his best, but it looks like Corvinus was just mechanically a little bit ahead here. He was cooking a little bit harder, and just as confirmation, by the way, guys, Beasty has hopped out of the Dragoman channel, and he is now in his Vortex channel, meaning he's going to talk Vortex through that initial start against B. Now, Corvinus, we can see here on the graphs, Dragovan having the APM of a StarCraft god. We can see the youth of Dragovan really showing here. Those fast fingers, clicking the buttons at 1 million actions per minute, 342. But just not being enough to take down Corvinus, a seasoned veteran.
Man, I'll be honest. You give me a third hand, I don't think I'm going to be able to do an APM of 342. Congrats to Dragovan on that one. But winning the APM doesn't win on the scoreboard. As he's going to be taking down not as much resources, obviously. Corvinus, just with that little bit of passiveness in the gold, the high trade house helping with some of the relics as well. You have the wood bonuses helping too. The Chinese imperial officials just couldn't quite keep up, even though the Dragovan had an economic count that was higher than Corvinus throughout the majority, I would say, in this game, especially when we got to Castle Age. Corvinus still had more resources and also definitely used them more effectively.
Now, I would really like to see that Dragovan does this a little bit better for the next one, but this is not over for Beasty's team. Keeping in mind that we are actually going to go into game 4 now, but I do see people asking about the B Vortex game. We will head over there after this, but guys, this might be a spicy one, apparently, according to our Mr. Observer, Cal, on Canal. This is Canal, right? Canal. Sorry. Don't make fun of my accent, Tim. Hell yeah, Timothy, we're gonna play some Canal today. It's going to be a hot one. We gotta get some Amazon. Yeah?
Get your snorkels ready, ladies and gentlemen, because we're canneling here. Ibis and Japanese. Oh, what fresh hell is this? The Ibis and the Japanese are going to be going in here. Obviously, two good water civilizations.
Mr. Producer Cal has told us we cannot jump to the B-Vortex game just yet. We have to jump to this one because, guys, we're about to go swimming. Are you ready for the destruction? As a wise man once said.
Oh, I'm ready. Let's get your water wingies, ladies and gentlemen. Get yourself a SteelSeries Alias microphone. One of the best out there, if not the best. And you can sound sweet and sultry just like me and Whamen here. Corvinus playing as the Ayubids on the western side, Dragovan as the Japanese on the eastern side. He will be going for that super quick dock. It looks like Corvinus, based on the amount of wood that he is getting, or lack thereof, is not going to be doing that.
And that just tells me, I guess I have to ask, are we just going to see then a camel going to stop that dock from having the time of its life? So, Corvinus just going for that normal age up. Honestly, I feel like it's a bit standard for Corvinus, but Corvinus knows how to be spicy out of standard. Now, Dragoman, we just need to see that this man adapts because looking at the channels right now, Beasty is back with Dragovan and Puppypaw is back with Corvinus. So both of these guys are coaching their players through this. They feel like they can trust B, they can trust Vortex. You don't need my help. Let's get these two boys through the game.
Yeah, I mean, with this one, just because my attention is obviously focused on this one from Cassie, but I know how much chaos it's going to be. You know, now we're going to get to a point as this game starts going from Dark Age to Fuel Age. The coaches have to allocate their time correctly, right? This is a pivotal series, and this is you've seen both of these players have the ability to beat each other. So this could be very important and really turn the tides as we go into next weekend. For B versus Vortex, maybe they're a little bit early. You might want to jump in a little bit later. It remains to be seen. But Corvinus, as we're looking at what's going on in the game, Corvinus does pull a villager over here, and he's going to put a dock right next to the Japanese dock. He's like, hey, you're fishing? Let me grab some of those fish as well.
And it feels like he just deleted one of those shore. I know it's just temporarily deleted, but those shippies are not going to be sipping there for or fishing there for too much. Too much. What? How did I just lose my ability to speak English there? It seems so. Tim, you're the doctor here. What's happening? But advancement is clicked up, which means the faster, cheaper age up, and Corvinus just wants to start being aggressive. And we can see he's already stocking up that wood to fight this. And Dragoman, we can see he's getting ready to age up, but this is going to be very hit or miss here at the start. He's only made 3 fishing ships, which I think is so important because they can go back into that dock. And Corvinus changes his mind about that second dock, but hey, apparently we're surrounding Dragovan and we're just going to have a party. A little boat party.
This is wild. You know, I mean, it's really important, too, when you're on a shared water source like this, who hits feudal first. And Corvinus knew exactly not only to get to feudal at the quickest time, but get the resources so as soon as he hits that feudal at about 3 minutes, 10 seconds because of the culture wing, you're going to be able to get that aeroship immediately. Dragovan's Coca Township, about 15% of the way done. It's going to take a while for him to do that. So he spent and delayed his age up to get that dock, to get those fishing boats, and now they're just gone. So it feels like wasted time.
The thing is, I wonder if they did pay off, especially with that food income. You make sure that your sheep last a little bit longer, and you force your opponent to invest on water, right? He's got a little bit of idle time in there. Those boats are just going to jump in and out and keep trying to fish while getting healed up. So the amazing number choice that he had there of 3, I think was definitely the right choice here for this to keep paying off, unless he loses any of those. Let's see what Dragovan does. Oof. He does get it back inside there. But this will force Corvinus to commit a little bit more onto water if he wants to keep contesting this. Because with Dragovan, you know, with Japanese, they get that passive stone from mining the gold, so he could just get an upgrade himself eventually as well. So the Coca Township coming in now, so let's see what the plan is from there on out.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point that you alluded to in terms of the passive stone for Dragovon, because the naval arrow slits, I don't think people talk about it enough. It's absolutely, like, it really stalls water games out. It's very difficult to use ships to take down a dock when somebody has arrow slits because of how much damage it's able to put out. So Dragovon might have the opportunity to do that, but that dock is starting to go down. Dragovon looking for a Springold ship, as Corvinus already has the papers. He's going to be adding the scissors and the rock to try to get a Springold ship and a demo ship, just to make sure whatever Dragovon comes out with, Corvinus is going to be able to deal with. So when that Springold ship comes out, he will be able to get a couple hits off. The demo ship is going to be able to take it down, maybe get the dock at the same time, and Dragovon is probably going to go into panic mode.
Now this is such a this is such a tough position to be in because you don't know how to keep this thing alive. The fishing ships cannot take the damage here. He's trying to heal this up so that when the demo ship connects, it's not going to cause that much damage, but the fishing ships go down, and the Springold ship is meant for the deep waters as well. Unfortunately, he does get to run away a little bit. I'm going to keep those boats occupied, but behind this, Corvinus is probably already cooking. He's cooked a little wall there, very nicely showed, Cal. And Corvinus probably going to go for a few fishing ships of his own now. The
Yeah, and this is
villagers.
what makes it super important. Oh my god, I'm sorry to cut you off, but villagers are trying to get that repair. Villagers are obviously very good at repairing boats. You can see how quickly they were able to do it. But Dragavon lost 2 villagers, 3 villagers, trying to save that, and now is at an economic deficit. That's huge.
This just shows that Dragavan civilization's getting banned, pushed him out of his comfort zone, and he is really struggling to keep things together right now. It looks like he's really not in a good place, like for the game. He's struggling to make the right decisions here. He doesn't really know what the next move is. The Springald ship doing okay here at the back too. He doesn't want to waste that demo ship there at the back. So he might be able to regain water from here, but I feel like Corvinus here is in the driving seat. We see he's getting another boat there behind all of this. Now, my question is just, what is Dragavan going to do with this? He's just invested a lot on water. We see a lot of ships on his side. And Corvinus, he's still deciding what he wants to do. He's just getting a ton of wood, and I don't really know what all that wood is for. Does he know?
I'm not really sure because he's adding a bunch of docks, right? They're only 75 wood apiece. So that's really going to help. This was an offensive to kind of delay Dragavon's food economy, and I feel like he succeeded in that. With the wall now, he could just continuously pump fishing boats if he wants to. Or, as we see Corvinus is doing also, getting some navy behind that wall. So when that wall does break, he's going to be incredibly prepared. And now with
No.
this mining camp trying to get this stone, I think there might be some naval arrow slits also just to make 100% sure that he's safe back there.
That's exactly what I was about to ask you. Is that just going to be a simple naval arrow slits to keep control of this water? Or are we going to see some land aggression from either of these players? Keeping in mind that Dragavan does have those shinobis. I would love to see him making some plays. We do see some red dots over on the blue side of the map, but not too aggressively. I say as the one is moving quite aggressively. Scout going to go see where there is damage to be found. Shinobi, not really sure what he's cooking just yet, but Dragavan getting another galley behind this as well. So I think this is going to be a micro battle once those ships meet.
Yeah, and I mean, you know how important it is to micro these ships. I mean, this is very similar to a feudal age land kind of thing where you have rock, paper, scissors, but because of how devastating the rock can be, the demo ship can be when it explodes, it's very important to keep your head on a swivel. There are some players that do this incredibly well. There are some players that kind of struggle a little bit if they're not exactly practiced in doing so. But Corvinus just waiting for that wall to drop. The Springald ships are going to be able to do that. And hopefully Corvinus, for his sake and for his team's sake, he's going to be able to have this hold. Docks are going to help him with a little bit of healing in this regard also, but you're exactly right. It's target those demo ships, get those demo ships down, and then you can use the docks healing to help you out.
Now, the problem is, Corvinus is the one who's transitioning on land. He's got a camel built already, probably just to deal with that shinobi, but that could turn into a lot more very, very quickly. Depending on how this water fight goes, it looks like that demo just exploded right on top of the water, and the galley is taking quite a bit of damage here from the Springald ships. I don't know if that was a misclick or if the dock was just way too spicy for that demo ship. But they do need to pull back, and it looks like there's almost enough stone from Dragavan to also get his arrow slits on his dock. That is going to be so critical in this water fight.
And, you know, and for Dragavon, too, the reason why he backed up with those Springald ships, there's absolutely no way you could sustain a push if you don't have one of those, right? So he had to back up just a little bit. He's going to be able to use his dock and some fishing boats to help out with healing. Demo ships trying to get in around where those Springald ships are, doing a little do-si-do, but does get a good hit on that southern Springald ship that's there. Another good demo hit, it looks like attempted, out of Dragavon, out of the red player. It looks like it went down. Oh my god, another one goes down. That Springald ship might not be long for this world, but he's taking a lot of wood to repair this at a time when that ship goes down also. You could have got another ship out of it if you left it alone, but this is a big win for Corvinus.
And the problem is, I think with Dragavan, he's just struggling to control these demos. We see another one popping out there at the back. Maybe the water fights have just not been part of his skill set. He probably just hasn't played this a lot. We see demo ships exploding way too early. And I think with those galleys not being able to be controlled correctly, he might lose a lot more. And Corvin is behind us. He's still got his camel. He's making sure he's safe on land. But now Shinobis are being pumped out from Dragovan. He did lose that initial one that he got. Now, let's see if he's going to be able to do anything else with these other two. We see no more ships in queue, though. And that might be... Ooh, I was going to say, that might be because he's struggling. But no. There's a camel in his base. Definitely distracting him.
Yeah, and you know what? This really helps just in terms of taxing your opponent, right? Just getting a land unit to raid some villagers every once in a while is going to be huge. We'll see if he can get that demo ship. Not quite. Those 4 Springald chips, I'm pretty sure, are going to be able to one-hit those demos. So Corvinus has to back up just because of that demo, couple Springald chips and naval arrow slits. You really don't want to take a fight where arrow slits are. And now kind of begs the question, because both players are getting a little bit of stone, Dragovan's getting it passively. Do you extend your docks upward to make sure you have naval arrow slits to help you out, or if you're just going to use brute force? Demo ship trying to help just a little bit from Corvinus, but ends up hitting that dock, which proves to be rather effective. If you take down that dock and no arrow slits, that might prove to be helpful. Another demo from Corvinus, not quite hitting anything, but Dragovan coming with his own. It looks like he's got a couple. And maybe, I don't see, he's got 1 arrow ship, Corvinus does, but it's not going to one-tap those demo ships. That demo one-tap that dock, that's for sure. And now he's able to progress just a little bit more forward. Oh my God. Wait a minute, this is chaos. Take over.
I feel like Dragovan just doesn't know how to move those demos past, and I feel like this is showing us exactly he's a land map player. He pulls shenanigans on land, and now with Beasty in his ears, he's maybe confident that he can take this, but those demos are constantly held back by the other ships. They aren't getting past, and the hits are just too dangerous. He's trying to pull them back in. Beasty probably telling him, hey, this is the moment, and getting a deadly shot off. What an amazing hit there, but now, again, it can go both ways, right? So that's the problem with water. You may get an amazing fight like this, and then one demo ship could offset that fight completely. He's pulling back to his docks, trying to just get these things to stay alive. We didn't see him get another set of arrow slits, so that other dock will not be reinforced against these demo ships trying to get closer, and it's getting close without being spotted. He might just get a deadly shot off. He gets a pretty decent shot, but the Springald does stay alive, and the fishing boats will be able to help. But we now see Dragovan moving out onto the rest of the map because the wood in his base has run out. And Corvinus, he's thinking about castle. Dragovan, nowhere close to that.
That's a good demo. Hitting one of those Springald chips. I think there was an arrow ship back there proving to be effective. And that's the thing. Like, Corvinus has kind of a game plan. You alluded to the Castle Age, right? So he's going to be trying to get to Castle Age. On the flip side, Dragovan, in terms of his food, that's probably one of his least important resources right now. He's got so much on wood, so much on gold, so he feels like if I lose water, I'm going to lose this game. So he makes sure that he gets there. Now it becomes a problem with Corvinus going up with the economic wing for Ayubid, so he gets 7 villagers popping out of that House of Wisdom as soon as it gets completed. So he's going to have that economic advantage and some Castle Age upgrades for those ships. So Dragovan is going to continue to try to populate, try to get a big navy, and maybe he can try to take over this canal.
What I'm just very surprised about is the fact that only now Dragovan gets that first villager kill while having so many shinobis on the whole map and being able to use them to cause a little bit of distraction and cause a little bit of duress. It just didn't feel like he was able to get all that done. Now, let's see now if he's going to be able to capitalize on this water, because we can see now Corvin is only with 2 of those demolition ships. I feel like he's the right kind of guy to try to handle this, though. Those demolition ships are definitely not to be discounted, and it looks like they're going to make a pretty big hit. And again, that's the power of the demo. They are just going to be absolutely awful once you take a wrong shot.
And, like, you know how much that delays you, right? Like, Dragovan, like, he had the navy. He had the mass to kind of overpower Corvinus. But getting that one demo ship just ends up completely swinging the canal more to the side of Corvinus. At the time when that was probably... The reason why that was the clutchest demo hit is because Corvinus is trying to go up to Castle. He used all of those resources, so you know that he didn't spend them making a navy. So he got that demo ship for a small amount of resources and took down a couple Springald ships, essentially, and halted a push completely. Here's another one coming in. only sprinkled chips there. There's 2 of them. They're bobbing and weaving. They're trying to get rid of that demo. Dragavon doing a little bit of micro to try to figure it out, but another one goes down. There's only 1 sprinkled chip that's in the front. Corvinus's hold, that was monumental.
Now, the problem might be people are thinking, okay, but Dragavan is ahead in villagers. Psych! Look at that. 1 villager ahead now from Corvinus. And keeping in mind, a lot of those vills that we see are just fishing ships, and they have a very temporary lifetime here. Those are not fish ponds that they can fish from forever, but also, Corvinus is going to take back that lake, and he's going to do it pretty soon. We see a lot of ships in queue. Dragavan now getting the floating gate, and he wants to start putting some pressure on the map. Getting the floating gate, and I think at this point of the game, you do have a very good mechanic for comeback, right? Because now your opponent is going to be out here on the rest of the map trying to get other resources, just like we saw a little ping there on the deer that our observer has unfortunately not given us a chance to look at. So we don't know if anything when a camel's body is lying on the floor there. He did get 2 villager kills there, though. So really, really well played there from Corvinus. And now with the sneaky barracks, he's going to try and make these deer a lot more, dangerous together.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you're going to get some venison, but at what cost? Of course, as Dragavon suspends that gate in the midair, floats it out there, puts the Arashir in the archery range, and he's going for Onimusha, which I know, I'm sounding surprised right now because a lot of people go for Mounted Samurai. Do you feel like Onimusha is the right call?
Well, I feel like it's the right call, but very blindly. The fact that he's going for the Onimusha just tells me he's just going to go for a unit that's mobile, right? But the problem is, he didn't know that there's a barracks being dropped down for him. So these Onimushas, they're barely doing anything against that camel, though. The camel is just running around in circles, killing villagers, causing a lot of idle time. And now with the Camel Lancer joining here, this is just going to get harder and harder to kill. But they do pretty well against these, and they can stay alive. But the water is happening at the same time, and Dragavan does not have the ability to do 3 things at the same time like Corvinus does.
Oh my god. That was perfect timing by Cow to see that demo hit. That is borderline game sealing. Now Dragavon loses the water. He's going to continue with those Onimushas, but the Onimusha, they're, in the food regard, they're pretty expensive. They're 80 food, 60 gold. So, and you have a lot of fishing boats and you have a good food economy, you're going to be able to get a decent amount of them. Now, I'm not really sure if that's the case. For the Onimusha, I mean, Corvinus has got Gulams, he's got Camel Lancers. They're all heavy, which is going to be fantastic for him. But is he going to be able to make enough? Is Corvinus's economy going to continue to steamroll ahead? A little sneaky demo from Dragavon. Going to be able to make Corvinus run back over there with tail between his legs. He gets an outpost there on the south side as well. So a little bit of calm in the canal, but I think for Dragavon, the damage is already done to him.
At this point, Dragavan is just going to keep losing and losing, and you guys can see exactly that on the map. You can see that Whamen is now with the 17 villager lead, and yes, these Onimushas are going to be able to channel their inner camel destroyer, but it's not going to be enough at this point because Corvinus is just so far ahead. Look at all those resources. He's getting more camels. He says, I see your Onimushas. I'm just going to go on the rest of the map and also put a little bit of havoc down on everything else. So let's see if Dragavan can keep punishing, but Dragavan needs to kill a lot more villagers. We're 26 villages destroyed. Keeping in mind, a lot of those are fishing boats. Corvinus is going to cause Dragavan to be stuck in his base, and this is not easy to come back from.
Yeah, I mean, fishing boat or otherwise, killing eco is killing eco, and it's fantastic. Dragavon does have an outpost on the south side that I alluded to previously. It does have a sprinkled upgrade, which might be able to help him out a little bit on the defense. But Corvinus, if you get enough Navy just to kind of stop any kind of fishing from happening, you're going to be in good shape, right? It looks like Dragavon trying to do something more of the land route to take down the fishing economy. Those Onimusha are going to be able to snipe down. They have a decent amount of base damage, so they'll be able to take down those fishing boats pretty quickly. For Corvinus, though, he's going for Desert Raiders as an army composition. I get it, but the thing is, those Desert Raiders, they don't have any kind of ranged armor unless he gets some of those upgrades. So Onimusha can still kind of get through them. You can see they have 6 melee armor, but continue on 0. If you get enough Onimusha, you might be able to kite these.
And that's exactly what he's doing here. He wasn't too aware of them in that moment, but you can see Corvinus is not punishing him on the rest of the map. He does lose quite a few of these, though. And even though he gets a few villages, I feel like with the amount of Onamushas he's losing from this, it might not be that worth it at this point. Now, the villagers on the south side, they're gathering gold all for free, and Dragoman keeps making those Onamushas, so maybe this mobility is what he needs, and he needs to stop Corvinus from getting control of the whole map.
And as far as land goes, he's doing okay in terms of composition. For land, the military count is vastly in favor of Dragovan. A lot of Corvinus's military is in ships with the 4 sprinkled ships and the 2 arrow ships. So getting all of these Onimusha, and this is exactly how Japanese plays in Castle Age, whether in land or whether on the water. You know, it's, can I get the tempo with the Yarishiru to make enough units to get my map control back, to get my things back? If Dragovan can get this mass and Corvinus continues to make some of these Desert Raiders, he's only got 6. If he's going to be able to continue to do this, it could be very important.
Now, I wonder if Corvinus is going to be able to have an answer to these Onamushas. And I can, like you said, he's making more Desert Raiders. And with the Desert Raiders he's making, they're expensive. Onamushas are expensive too, but when you're Japanese, with this mobile army and Dragoman being so aggressive, he's going to pick up a few really good kills here. Another one goes down, and another, and now he's going to start to kite these other military units. And the camels are doing well, right? But like you said, if the numbers get big enough, they are not going to be doing the same. Although they're doing pretty well against these small numbers, and we'll see if these Onamushas can gather together and do some damage. We see some action there at the north as well, villagers running for their lives. But, yeah, trying to go for another piece of wood, but the Onamusha causing a lot of havoc. And now, all of a sudden, the villagers are pretty even. And it doesn't feel like those are ship kills. Those are a lot of actual villager kills.
Yeah, Dragovan's kind of like trying to raid his way back into the game, right? Having a couple sets of Onimusha. I love seeing this because of how taxing it is from an APM perspective to actually do this. The Onimusha are a lot like horse archers for the Rus, for the fact that they don't shoot like Mangadai do automatically. You have to babysit them. You have to go over an A move, and you have to figure out not to get them in harm's way and all that kind of stuff. And Dragovan's doing that with 2 different sets. And he's going to be able to pump a lot out. He's got 1,000 food per minute. He's got almost 1,000 gold per minute. With those 30 that he has, remember though, those Desert Raiders, we talked about them not having ranged armor. Onamusha don't either. Talk about babysitting, might be getting into harm's way with some of those Desert Raiders. Not quite at that critical mass yet. He still has to 2-shot, and he has some of that ranged damage upgrade as well. So hopefully he'll be able to do that soon for Dragovan's case. But if he continues to make these, he might be able to tie this. I mean, his Onamusha count, his military count, how quickly he's producing them is pretty impressive.
And I don't know if this is just Dragovan being the spiciest man alive, or Beasty telling him, man, you gotta get back in this. But Puppypaw is still in Corvinus's channel, giving him the advice he needs, while Beasty is yapping away at Dragovan. Both their mics are unmuted, so then you know this is a conversation, and it seems to be a really good comeback mechanic here from those two. I'm really excited to see what this one turns into, because those Onamushas, they're quite deep in.
And you know what's really important with Canal also is, some of those Mushas getting into harm's way. Spadudio. A lot of those Onamusha are going to go down. That's so important. That's like 10 to 12 different Onamushas that are going to be huge. The one thing to really stop those is the villagers torching are walls, right? Onamusha can't get there if you don't have the walls, but he's going to be using villagers in order to do that. I was going to say, on Canal, a lot of those resources, once you get done with that back wood patch, once you get done with that first gold, everything else is forward. So map control becomes so important, and we're going to see Dragovan trying to get more food. He was lacking in that food department to try to get Onamusha, so we'll see if he's going to be able to do that. This is the critical mass that we're looking for. Look at the Onamusha kite. With some of these spearmen also, he has enough to kind of take down spearmen almost 2 at a time. And now with this mass, even though he might have a little bit of camel unease, it might be that critical mass to start taking them down, and it looks like he's attempting to do so. Spearman trying to get in there in the front as well. I don't think that was that textbook perfect micro that you wanted out of an Onamusha player, out of Dragovan. Lost a little bit more than you wanted.
Yeah, and I feel like the villager's getting pulled as well. He just wanted to extend the lifetime here, but he does still have 29. They're probably split up a little bit here, but these guys are doing pretty well. Corvin is now, though, 81 workers, and Dragovan is bleeding more and more, and that's a lot of idle time on these bad boys as well. The spearmen will be going down. The villagers should not have too many losses, but you can see him plopping down those extra towers as well, knowing that he needs to find a way to control this. Remember, those fishing ships are not going to be able to fish forever, but there's still a lot of fish on the lake, so he is going to be able to sustain himself for a little while longer, especially with those desert raiders in queue. But I don't know, 6 is not a number I feel like you want to have when you're trying to make a push like this. But he's got 1,000 wood, and apparently,
Oh,
the Tower of the Sultan is the choice he makes. Very nice.
look at that. Cow
Ready to go.
highlight. Cow highlights that battering ram structure that's on the top of it. It always looked borderline phallic to me, but it will be able to try to take down some of those buildings there. It'll bumble and stumble its way into the Dragovan base. Villagers actually getting a little frisky, trying to take down this tower. They might be able to do so. Dragovan's got just about all of his own Onimusha back here to try to do some damage. Desert Raiders actually pull out their swords, try to take down these villagers. The outpost goes down, but Whamen, at what cost? I think he had to have had somewhere around 20-some villagers around here. Now he's got a little close to 10.
I feel like he's desperate at this point. He's just like, okay, I need to try and get damage. I need to do that damage. I need to do this. And I feel like that panic in his soul is causing this game to be this chaotic. I don't even know what to say anymore. There's just so many villagers dying everywhere. The ships are fighting. The villagers are pulled again. They're going to burn a hole in the wall, and the Onimushas are back at it. But the gold income from Corvinus is abysmal at the moment, and he knows it. So with that ram at the top, we'll see what the Tower of the Sultan can do, but the Onimushas are still pretty scary.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, if you're Dragovan, literally make anything that could take down a wall. Because that's what's stopping you. You're pulling villagers to try to take down this wall where you could have been using stuff like if you wanted Spearman, if you wanted Onabugisha, if you didn't want to change your macro or something like that. He's also sitting on 2,000 gold, so he's going to look a way to spend it. Maybe a market would be helpful as well. He's trying to put this exclamation point on this game with this Onimusha. He's got them all together. The outpost will be helping him out just to create a little bit of fire from Corvinus. There's another one over there on the north side as well. Might be able to use a little bit of navy as they start to move a little bit west also. On top of that production, so maybe any of the spearmen, any of the gulams that come out are going to end up going down. I don't think Corvinus cares too much because we have the Tower of the Sultan bumbling and stumbling its way over to the Japanese base looking to do something. Look at that thing wobble.
Now, Dragovan at this point, you can see he's trying to shut down gold and gold only. And he's going to that top call because he's like, he's got to be here. How else is he producing units? Now, these villagers here at the bottom, a lot of idle time. He's trying to find those villagers that are not there at the top. He should realize now, okay, Corvinus is starved. And look at Corvinus's resources, 48 gold per minute. But he's just making more spearmen. And apparently, that is the answer.
Wow, those outposts got up pretty much just in time. Corvinus does spot it, has a little bit of extra villagers that will have to walk out of there. But again, it's all about denying that gold, just like you said. And a lot of Onimusha might go down in the making of this process, but it was enough to halt that gold process. No gold means no Desert Raiders. And Corvinus is on 7 right now. He's continuing to pump spearmen into those Onimusha that can continuously kite it. So he's going to look to try to do something. I'm really surprised, Whamen, that I'm not seeing horsemen out of Corvinus. They are food and wood. You do have the economy for both of those. They're going to do a lot better than spearmen are against Onimusha.
And we see the mounted samurais from Dragoman, though, because he realizes I might need to deal with that tower in my base, and it's hammering away at my gold and stuff. But, like, what do I even do? And he doesn't have any units that deals with that. So these Onimushas aren't going to do much against that tower, so getting those mounted samurais are going to be critical. You can see he's making a very few Onimushas out of this, but he's got a lot of resources. Gold finally spent or sold. We'll find out soon enough.
Yeah, even some of those relics going down for Dragovan, which is really important. He pulls all the Onimusha back to try to take care of the Navy. Really interesting and unique thing about Canal as well. Just because of the canal going so close to your enemy's base, you're going to be able to deal with it. Onimusha is trying to take down a battering ram. We'll come back in about 12 minutes when they do. But on the flip side, Corvinus now has that ability for gold. Now he's got a little bit of gold. You can see him mining that on the northern side, and maybe that south side will get cleared up as well, as this Tower of the Sultan finally ends up going down with a couple mounted samurai that are here. Are those are Whamen? Those are, I thought they were villagers. They're spearmen. Okay, never mind.
Yeah, no,
I was
he's
gonna
got a
start
ton of
panicking.
those to go around with. He's realized I can only make wooden food village of food and wood village units, and they are doing work. But this was such an important pickup for Corvinus. Now with Dragovan, he doesn't have a lot of wood, so he's going to need to rebuild that. He's going to need to put those relics back inside. He's losing more villagers, but now those towers are extra reinforced, and he needs to pull back to make sure that those villagers don't go down for nothing. He needs to kill that army. More spearmen coming out as well, and these villagers are going to try to do some work, but they keep him busy. And Onamushas have come to support.
Yeah, I just want to say that Tower of the Sultan, I think I got hit by a piece of shrapnel. What a tremendous explosion that is. Another one going to be built on the northern side of the canal. It looks like a lot of fishing. Oh my God. A lot of fishing boats are going to be trying to take some fish, but that's going to be a big problem for Corvinus. If he doesn't have the safe fishing boats, and the Onamusha are going to make sure that there isn't, he's going to have to get food somewhere. And then you don't have food. Now he's got a little bit of gold, but the food might end up becoming a problem. There's mounted samurai trying to take some torches to it. Villagers going down because these Onamusha, those outposts, I don't think have the upgrades in just yet. Look at all of the fishing boats that are going down in the blink of an eye. We talked about Corvinus's economic count being high for a long period of time, but it's starting to equal itself. Whoa! Oh my God! 20 of those Onamusha end up going down. He lost a lot of fishing boats, but he just normalized that military count. Bonkers.
That was just Corvinus in a nutshell, right? Corvinus is the kind of guy who can pull something out of his hat like this. The spearmen, though, dealing pretty well with these mounted samurais, too. The Onamusha's not being microed perfectly here, and I mean, this could be to the detriment of him. There's just so many spearmen, and while these mounted samurais are great, we still have that Tower of the Sultan doing fine job at the back here. Onamusha's still in queue, and the spearmen, they're trading pretty well because it just doesn't feel like he's microing these.
No, I mean, his attention is going to be occupied somewhere else. And it looks like there's some stuff moving on the south side where he was getting those deer, so maybe he's more focused in that regard. But Dragovan actually making a little bit of a change, and he's starting to wall over there as well. Making a little bit of a change. We're not seeing too much of the Onamusha variety anymore, and that makes a lot of sense because there's Desert Raiders and there's Spearmen. So he's adding some Mounted Samurai and then adding some Yumi Ashigaru, which I did not expect to see today just because of the flimsiness of them. But they are rather cheap, so he will be able to pump out a decent amount of them if he's able to. Now, Corvinus did lose a lot of villagers, I should say, on that wood line and those fishing boats as well. So what does he do? He pops out a couple town centers. He's got 3 right now. So for Corvinus, just because he has that economic advantage now with multiple town centers, if this game keeps going longer and longer, Corvinus will have a better economy.
I just love that we're getting a live feed on that Tower of the Sultan. Amazing work by Mr. Producer Cow, just keeping us informed on that beautiful ram and its ideas. You know, he's just gliding around on the map, making sure that he gets vision, that he looks at different resources. And Dragovan, he's running low on them right now.
that Tower of Sultan is just happy to be here, man. Waddling its way over, looking for something, you know, and end up doing pretty good. This is a pretty big detriment, too, as Cow's pointing out, for Dragovan. Japanese do not get keeps in Castle Age. They get castles in Imperial Age. How does that make sense? That is for you to decide. But Mounted Samurai are going to be able on the south side, so he's not going to have this like powerful structure to help his farm economy, his wood economy, or any of that kind of stuff. So he's going to need to rely on outposts and springholds. But military count for Dragovan, he's the one making units. Corvinus is the one who's pumping out of 3 town centers, right? So Corvinus is going to be down in that military count. Is this Dragovan's time to strike? And is Corvinus going to have something to say about it?
Now, I think Corvinus investing that much into the town centers, it might have been important for him, but only if he can hold this. And with the Spearman, though, he's going to be able to do a pretty decent job. You can see those mounted samurais are barely doing anything to that reinforced tower. And it's doing pretty well here, but the Spearman count is not as high as it needs to be. And still, we are just seeing the power of the horses. The shields are going down now, but look at all these fishing boats going down. They did pay for themselves, though, and that 3rd TC is going to do amazing. Now, the question is, does Dragovan go for the kill, or does he just go and deny those TCs?
Oh, you gotta get in there. You gotta do so much damage, Whamen. And I think he's gonna have the ability to do so just because of the lack of military that Corvinus has. He's going with a lot of spearmen. He's got 10 spearmen in the queue. He's got 12 out there. Those mounted samurai, even though we're seeing them very late in this game, they are no joke. Those mounted samurai take that first spearman hit and just make it null and void. So you're going to be able to take them down pretty quickly. I saw a message in chat from Steve L91. Nice to see you. He was talking about that 8K gold in the north for Corvinus. As Cow showed the vision, he has no idea that exists. He didn't scout that. So his gold, or lack thereof, more so a scouting issue than anything else.
Now, this is going to add up as well. We see, oh, he just doesn't have the mass to deal with those walls, though. And you can see, just as Tim said earlier, guys, he needs to find the counter to walls, which in this case, I mean, pretty good answer would be a little ram or two, right? But apparently, he just wants to keep putting those archers on top of them. He does get a few villagers, but again, when you have this many TCs, you're okay sacrificing a few of them.
Yeah, you feel like you're going to be able to pump them out. I feel like for the Corvinus, though, is that berry patch the only food he's getting? I'm not really sure what other food, because the fishing boats I don't think are doing too much. A lot of them ended up going down. He's got 30 economic units, and he still has some boats there as well. So that's in terms of his food, and I feel like that's the thing that's bottlenecking him right now because of how much spearmen he's trying to get. Mounted Samurai taking a rather disadvantageous fight on a lot of those. That's a lot of resources. Those Mounted Samurai are a little bit more expensive than your Knight by just a little bit, but still, it proves to be a challenge, and he's looking to get raids for Dragavon somewhere around like where Corvinus's home base is, his starting town center, his House of Wisdom. Problem is, Eco's not there anymore. All of that got gobbled up, so he's going to have to figure something else out. Mount the Samurai on that gold mine on the eastern side as well. So, Whamen, with this military count that Dragavon has, it's rather impressive. He's got a decent amount of Yumi. He's looking to make that game-ending, that death push to tie this series. Is it going to be enough?
I feel like it could be. If you're looking at the units that he does have, he's getting the Yumi, he's getting the Mounted Samurai. Mounted Samurai are going to do okay against the spears, but what Corvinus has in his composition is not going to do well against that amount of Yumi Ashigaru. We can see now he's queuing up more archers, a few crossbows, but I don't feel like he knows what he's about to face. It looks like he's just getting a little bit of everything. He's getting a horseman in the queue as well now, and Dragavan is just ready to make a push. He's actually made a ram. Guys, Dragavan has a ram. I want you guys to take note. This might be the game-changing move as the rams have been created. We see that alarm going off. Another Mounted Samurai dying. Dead on the ground, unfortunately. Rest in pieces. But we will now see those rams pushing through it on the bottom side as we're being left in suspense, trying to find out what this push is going to look like. Thank you very much, Mr. Observer. You're going to show us the biggest fight of them all. The villagers are pulled. Corvinus is ready to lose a few more. He says, I have more TCs, don't worry. It's more where that came from. Little bit of a misclick, and these samurais are just going to be snacking on those bad boys. There's going to be 10 spaces for them to hide, but definitely not a loss that Corvinus can afford right now.
God, you know, sometimes those Yumi Ashigaru, I mean, they have the steeled arrow, and they have the +2, and they have the bannerman for the archers, but I swear, sometimes it just looks like they're shooting pea shooters the whole time. They have a decent amount of attack now with all of those upgrades. It takes a while to get there, but you do get there eventually. I've expected just about every villager to go down in that regard, but not going to be the case. More of those outposts go down by ramming them. Another 4 villagers. And Dragavon also getting, as you see that picture-in-picture, also getting a little cheeky up north. He's splitting Corvinus in different areas, trying to figure out the best way to actively take down this Ayubid player. And this is the time, Whamen, where it's put up or shut up. He knows the town centers are there. He knows he can't continue this game because of all the town centers that are there. He's got to end it.
And he still doesn't know about that fated gold, as Cal's pointing out, the relic being the unknown. Dragavan being the only one with relics, actually, quite interestingly enough. Now, with those boys, he just has the mass to keep the push going, and it just doesn't feel like Corvinus is going to make the units he needs to shut this down. You can see here, he's going straight for the landmark snipe. This is kind of spicy. I don't know if Corvinus is going to be back here with enough units to stop this. The TC might go down, but it will be a very, very slow push. to getting that House of Wisdom down.
Oh my god, he's trying to call a game right now. Whamen, 4 Rams, 5 Rams, 6 Rams, I'm counting. Six Rams. We'll be able to take those down. Demo ship, on some of those Yuumi, but ends up catching it pretty quickly. A 7th Ram comes down on the south side. A lot of these Spearmen do have the Phalanx upgrade and will be trying to take down these Rams, but that town center, I don't think the Spearmen are going to get there in time. Another demo ship. Corvinus is trying to use the shore to his advantage, but not quite getting there. That town center is going to go down. That back end for those Spearmen, they're trying to take down the Rams more so than being a front line for these mounted samurai. The mounted samurai are taking hits from some of these crossbowmen, but Yuumi might be able to clean this up pretty easily. 2 Rams continuing to hit this House of Wisdom on the western side. The House of Wisdom does have a pretty high amount of HP, so it's going to take a lot of Ram hits, but Corvinus's military mass is starting to drop.
The problem is, behind this, Dragoman is also raiding. He's making sure that Corvinus is rerouting some of those very few military units he has all the way to the farms as well. You see those spearmen gathering there, and the Yuumi is doing pretty well. Although, I mean, the Tower of the Sultan not really taking any damage from those archers. So they are just going to run around it. They've realized they're not going to delay this too much. Villagers going down left and right. There's 16 military units here from Corvinus, and some of them are defending those mounted samurais, raiding them. Amazing play here from Dragoman. Just absolutely showing us what a comeback could look like if you just have the right mobility and micro your units properly. Look at those Rams just hammering away. And those Yuumis, they're here not just to shoot villagers, but also to make those spicy Rams to end this game.
Yeah, I think Corvinus needs a couple decent amount of horsemen. He's got 10 there, obviously, because it's a lot of Yuumi, and the spears are going to be helping against the mounted samurai. But Dragovon has his economy that's been relatively unrated for the future. I mean, Corvinus did have 3 town centers, but he has a lot of workers that ended up going down. Dragovon killed 90 on this one. So House of Wisdom starting to burn. That town center not technically fully repaired, I don't think. So it still counts as a landmark going down, if I see that correctly. Villagers on the north side trying to get some repairs. Don't know how effective they're going to be with 3 Rams on the backside. Mounted Samurai there as well. Yuumi trying to snipe them. House of Wisdom on its last breath, continuing to be in flames. That town center did get repaired. It's got about 1,000 health left. Villagers are pulling out the stops. They're smacking their hammers as fast as they can, but I don't think it is going to be enough. That town center going down. Dragovon tying this series up in rather theatric fashion.
Now, I feel like Corvinus looked good that game. He showed us exactly what you need to do to take control of the water, to get a little bit of presence there, but Dragoman just finding a way to get back into this game in the most amazing fashion. Right now, the score we see there 0-0 is 2-2. Dragoman scoring a 2nd point for Beastyqt's team, while Corvinus has 2 for Puppypaw's team as well.